I'm calling this meeting to order. Please rise. Mrs. Peña. Let's rise for a moment, silence meditation. Mrs. Peña, please.
Yes, if we can all bow our heads for a moment of silence for Betty Frausto, who has gone on to be with our Lord, and prayer for her family and all the people she loved. And she was an administrator here with our district, a wonderful teacher. And today I ask that we have a moment of silence in her memory. Thank you.
Ms. Peña, pledge allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Ms. Peña. Let the record reflect that every board member is present today. Number 5, recommend approving the agenda for the regular board meeting of October the 6th, 2009, with any corrections, deletions. Mrs. Brinton.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have just a couple of additions and deletions. If we look under closed meetings, under A, level 3, board review, items 12, 13 will be deleted from the agenda. Under Roman numeral 12, general function, item number 16. The agenda should read, recommend approval to rescind item 11B37, approved at regular scheduled school board meeting on 9/15.
Say that again, please.
Recommend approval to rescind agenda item, Roman numeral 11, B37, approved at the regularly scheduled school board meeting on 9/15/09.
Thank you.
And last but not least, under personnel matters, closed meeting, item number 50, pages 457 will be replaced with 457A.
Okay. Anyone else?
Move to approve.
Be moved to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Kluma. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Number 6, recommend approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting of August 18, 2009, with any corrections. Mr. Spring.
Move to approve. Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Sayas, approved by Mr. Cortez. Those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed? Nay. Okay. There is passes unanimous. Recommend approving the consent agenda. Okay. It's going to be lengthy. My colleagues have asked that we discuss items under general function number 16, 17, 20, 24, 25, 26. Letter B, recommend approval of the following payment on number 27, 31, and 34 under D, under personnel matters. Under personnel matters, item number 39, 40, 41, 42, 45, 49, 51, 52, 53, 54, A and B, and number 55, under C, real property.
48.
And 48. Okay. Anyone else?
Mr. President. Mr. President, regarding a agenda item, I believe that was item number 26.
Okay.
We have an identical item that's in closed session with the internal auditor. And I'm recommending to the chair that be heard. Action can be taken on it once we exit
Okay.
from a closed session. but the items are almost identical in their content. And I don't know if Mr. Sias has any comment or objection to that.
Move it, change the order, move it to the end of the meeting.
Then I'll move to change it to after we have it, the discussion in closed session.
That's fine.
Okay, it's been moved that we move item number 26 after closed sessions.
Right.
Sorry, left. Are we discussing on public comments, number 11? I didn't hear you mention number 11. Is that one going to be discussed, or is that one?
Should be.
It should be.
That's an
That's,
executive
yes, number
session.
11.
That's it,
That's a
closed meeting.
closed meeting, that will be discussed in closed meeting.
11 and 12.
12
12 and 13.
12 and 13 deleted.
Mhm.
12 and 13 deleted. There's a motion by Mr. Sias to
Yes, I
change the
need a
order of the
second.
day.
For confirmation,
In second, that we move item number 26
To be removed?
to after, what number would that be?
Anytime after we reconvene.
All right,
after
anytime
numbers-
we convene from closed session.
Closed session.
All right, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, now, Ms. Garcia?
no,
Is-
the decision has been
Okay.
made, but it's been moved to the end.
Anyone else?
She opposed.
I don't know.
Do I have a motion to approve the
Move to
agenda?
approve the agenda.
Being moved by Mr. Cortez to approve the agenda. Do I have a second? Mr. Sias, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed say nay. Okay, superintendent's report, Pat?
Item 1, recognition of 2009 BISD exemplary recognized elementary campuses.
Ms. Springton?
Thank you, Mr. President.
Yeah, but over here, she voted against. Make sure that I got
Okay, hold on.
Mr. Aguilar, members of the board, I would like to, at this time, go ahead and invite you to step into the semicircle so that we can present flags and plaques to our BISD exemplary recognized elementary campuses for 2009. Each campus is represented tonight by a principal, teacher, a parent, and a student. And we're going to start off with the 2009 exemplary campuses. In order to achieve the rating of exemplary, a campus must have a 90% tax passing rate for all students in reading, English, language arts, writing, mathematics, social studies, and science for all applicable subpopulations, and must have met the student projection measure, or what is known as TPM, standard where applicable. I want you to know that overall 84%, and we've heard this before, and to our community, that 84% of our schools were recognized and or exemplary. And at this time, I'm going to have Ms. Pena, if you'll come out and help me name the schools as they get recognition, so that we can show how supportive we are of our principals and our students and their hard work and their dedication toward this district. Sorry, I'd like to surprise you.
Yes, sir, and I'm going to name them in the order that we have them here under exemplary elementary campuses. We have Aiken Elementary. E.J. Martinez is the Aiken principal, and the area assistant superintendent is Mary Jo Monfiles.
Congratulations. Good job, guys. You got the right chair, Rachel? You got the right chair? This one doesn't, I can switch, it doesn't matter. No? What I see.
Congratulations, Aikens Elementary. Next, we have Benavides Elementary. Sherry L. Stout is the Benavides principal, and the area assistant superintendent is Mr. Carlos Guerra.
The Benavides.
Thank you. Sorry.
Congratulations to Benavides Elementary. Our next exemplary school is Egley Elementary. Christina Bridgewater is the Egley principal, and area assistant superintendent is Dr. Carl Montoya. Congratulations, Egley Elementary. Our next exemplary school is Gallegos Elementary. Dr. Norma Linda Gallegos is the Gallegos principal, and area assistant superintendent is Berta Peña.
You know that Saldaña, the boy that runs, was your son?
Yeah, that's him.
How come you didn't tell us?
Let everybody know.
That's Mike's son.
He's the leading rusher right now.
Congratulations, Gallegos Elementary. Our next exemplary school is Gonzales Elementary. Yolanda Kruger is the Gonzales principal, and the area assistant superintendent is Ms. Berta Peña. Congratulations, Gonzales Elementary. Our next exemplary school is Hudson Elementary. Dr. Rita Hernandez is the Hudson principal, and the area assistant superintendent is Dr. Carl Montoya.
Yes, Mr. Brixton, it certainly is. Where do we want this little one to be? Right here. We want it, okay. And then Mommy? Blue exemplary. You got a spot there? Okay, that's good.
Congratulations, Hudson Elementary.
Good to see you, Miss.
Our next exemplary school is Martin Elementary. Our principal, Gilda Jo Peña, is the Martin principal, and area assistant superintendent is Mr. Carlos Guerra. So cute.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Martin Elementary. Our next school, exemplary school, is Morningside Elementary. Dolores C. Emerson is the Morningside principal, and area assistant superintendent is Mary Jo Monfiles.
Where's she going?
Congratulations, Morningside Elementary. Our next exemplary campus is Ortiz Elementary. Sandra Lopez is the Ortiz principal, and area assistant superintendent is Carlos Guerra.
Listen up, Bert.
Congratulations, Ortiz Elementary.
Like, I need to be in the picture.
Oops, more pictures. Congratulations. Our next school is Paderes Elementary. Julie Trevino is the Paderes principal. Area assistant superintendent is Dr. Carl Montoya. Hey, beautiful.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Paderes Elementary. Our next school is Perez Elementary. Ruben Martinez is the Perez principal. Area assistant superintendent is Dr. Carl Montoya. Congratulations, Perez Elementary. Our next school is Putenet Elementary. Carla Pereira is the Putenet principal. Ms. Ernestina Trevino will be accompanying Mrs. Pereira. She was a principal last year. And the area assistant superintendent is Mrs. Raquel or Rachel Ayala. Congratulations to Putenet Elementary. Our next school is Southmost Elementary. Jimmy Haynes is the Southmost principal. Area Assistant Superintendent is Mary Jo Monfiles. A blue ribbon school. Congratulations, Southmost Elementary. Our next school is Victoria Heights Elementary. Michael Moreno is the Victoria Heights principal, and area assistant superintendent is Dr. Carl Montoya.
I don't know where anybody's at. Hi, baby. Congratulations, Daddy.
Oh, where is he? Jonathan, congratulations.
You're almost finished, Jonathan.
Yeah, he wanted to shake my hand. There's the movie star right
Congratulations, Victoria Heights. Our next school is Ituria Elementary. Norma J. Torres is the Ituria principal, and area assistant superintendent is Carlos Guerra. Congratulations, Ituria Elementary. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the list of exemplary campuses, but we now move on to our 2009 recognized elementary campuses. To earn a recognized label, the campus must have a 75% tax passing rate on all students in reading, English language arts, writing, mathematics, social studies, and science for all applicable subpopulations, or must have met the Texas projection measure. Starting our list of recognized TEA, recognized elementary campuses, is Bright Elementary. Frank Ortiz is the Bright principal, and area assistant superintendent is Mary Jo Monfiles.
I like when it says bright principal.
I just hope we doesn't get hurt. That beat up real bad against San Benito.
Congratulations, Bright Elementary. Our next school is Burns Elementary. Mario Fajardo is the Burns principal. Area assistant superintendent is Dr. Carl Montoya.
Hey, después se catean, but they're all beat up.
You need them.
I've already tried. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Hi, Blanca. Congratulations, Mama. Congratulations. Good job. Congratulations. But I mean, fourth quarter.
He was scared to death.
Thank you, sir. Will the boys stand here?
They beat him pretty sound, you know. But those guys. Guess and Herrera. But then we beat him pretty sound.
At the fourth quarter, ya déjalo que descanse.
No, we're playing Wesley.
Congratulations, Burns Elementary. Our next school is Canales Elementary. Debbie Alford is the Canales principal. Lloyd Apoy was the principal last year, and the area assistant superintendent is Mrs. Rachel Ayala.
How are you doing?
Congratulations, Canales Elementary. Our next campus is Castañeda Elementary. Nora Camargo is the Castañeda principal, and area assistant superintendent is Mrs. Rachel Ayala. Everything okay? Oh, okay. They're doing a conference.
Just leave it there.
Yes, thank you. I haven't come out yet. Almost.
Great job.
Yeah, I'm coming out in a little bit. Yeah, gotta go. Yes, bye. Congratulations, Castañeda Elementary. Our next recognized school is Champion Elementary. Berta Presas is the champion principal. Area assistant superintendent is Berta Peña.
Tell him. Put it all the way through, all of them. So I had a brand new suit. Everything would go down to the bottom. I had to take it back.
No. No.
Yeah. You need some water or something? Oh, you're right.
Congratulations, champion. Our next school is Cromac Elementary. Carmelita Rodriguez is the Cromac principal. Area assistant superintendent is Mrs. Rachel Ayala. You stay there.
We're knocking out those 2 level 3s. I don't have anything.
Don't worry about us, man. Don't worry about us.
No, you'll figure it out on our own. No, you can do it. We'll move around.
Congratulations, Cromac Elementary. Our next school is Del Castillo Elementary. Jose Luis Boy is the Del Castillo principal. Area assistant superintendent is Mrs. Rachel Ayala.
You guys are going to work hard? Que se van para allá, yo no voy a quedar ahí acá atrás.
What can I say? It's a waste of time. The workshop, but Houston does. Budget
Subcommittees,
workshop,
they have,
what, they do like that, the budget committees, the
yeah,
facilities.
but the difference is
And
those are actual committees. There, you see, down here,
but
we
no
don't,
action.
yes, they do have committee power, like, but if it doesn't come out of that committee, you know. Everybody's invited, even though you've got.
Congratulations, Del Castillo Elementary. Our next school is El Jardín Elementary. Esmeralda G. Tamez is the El Jardín principal. Area assistant superintendent is Mary Jo Monfiles.
Congratulations, big guy.
Thank you. Hello.
We're taking counts, we're taking notes.
We know who's got more.
We know who's in trouble tonight.
Congratulations, El Jardín Elementary. Our next school, Garden Park Elementary. Victor M. Caballero is the Garden Park principal. Area Assistant Superintendent is Carlos Guerra.
Get the nail on the head.
February 14th should be training something. You're perfect.
They're gonna present.
Congratulations, Garden Park Elementary. Our next school is Longoria Elementary. Marina Flores is the Longoria principal. Area Assistant Superintendent is Mrs. Rachel Ayala.
You know, because you're gonna have public audience, public input. But what we used to do. A week, policy, facilities, we were always on top of facilities, we were always on budget. We would settle it in committee, and that's where we get.
Congratulations, Longoria Elementary. Our next school is Palm Grove Elementary. Lily S. Casares is the Palm Grove principal. Area Assistant Superintendent is Mary Jo Monfiles.
About an hour into it, we kind of just gave up.
Congratulations, Palm Grove Elementary. Our next school is Resaca Elementary. Teresa Villafuerte is the Resaca principal. Area Assistant Superintendent is Rachel Ayala. Congratulations, Resaca Elementary. Our next school is Russell Elementary. Bill Gutierrez is the Russell principal. Area Assistant Superintendent is Carlos Guerra.
There's no secrets here. I had some good information there. Yeah, I'm the old one. I'm the last to know, like at my house. At my house, I'm always the last to know.
Congratulations, Russell Elementary. Our next school is Sharp Elementary. Karen Trevino is the Sharp principal, and Area Assistant Superintendent is Rachel Ayala. Congratulations, Sharp Elementary. Our next school is Skinner Elementary. Kim Moore is the Skinner principal, and Area Assistant Superintendent is Rachel Ayala. Congratulations, Skinner Elementary. Our next school is Vermilion Elementary. Socorro Hoteling is the Vermilion principal. Jay Harris was the principal last year, and the area assistant superintendent is Berta Peña. Congratulations, Vermilion Elementary. Our next school is Villanueva Elementary. Jose H. Martinez is the Villanueva principal. Area assistant superintendent is Carlos Guerra. Congratulations, Villanueva Elementary. This concludes our award ceremony. 34% of all BISD schools are now rated exemplary or recognized. What did I say? 84%, or 41 of all BISD schools are now rated exemplary or recognized. The academic progress of all our schools has brought us not only state but national attention. We have much to celebrate with the successes of these schools. Congratulations to all our principals, our schools, and especially our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pena. Thank you, principals, students, and staff.
In fact, we all, the district, not only the district, but also all board members are very proud of our teachers and principals and young people for great accomplishment. And of course, we don't go to sleep, right? So what do you think this year's going to happen? We're going to be 100% recognized or exemplary across this district. So that's a challenge. Anyone else? Ms. Peña.
I want to thank everyone that's involved with children, principals, administrators, teachers, and especially the parents, because it's a lot of hard work, and I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Keep it up, and don't ever stop what you're doing, because you're doing a wonderful job. Thank you.
Pat.
Item 2, presentation of BISD preparedness for H1N1 virus.
Mrs. Springton, please.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board, and members of our community. I know this is an item that's of great interest, not only just here locally, but across the nation and across the world. And here to work with us, I'll turn it over to Ms. Fox.
Thank you, Mr. Springston, Mr. Aguilar, members of the board. Ms. Maria Castillo, our Administrator for Health Services, is here this evening to make a very brief presentation on how BISD has prepared for the H1N1 virus. We've also invited Dr. Mazzini, a local pediatrician who serves as our BISD counselor and advisor doctor. He was unable to come this evening because the last time we saw him, he was still serving patients. So he may show up later on, but he does serve as our BISD medical doctor, pediatrician for our schools and for Ms. Castillo. So at this time, I'd ask Ms. Castillo to make her presentation. Ms. Castillo?
Good afternoon. What an act to follow. Board President, Mr. Springston, members of the board, audience. The 2009 H1N1 is a new flu virus that was first detected in the United States on April 17, 2009. It quickly spread, causing school closures amongst 831 Texas schools during April and May of 2009. This virus is spreading from person to person in much the same way that your seasonal flu virus spreads, transmitted through respiratory secretions. The new CDC guidance for schools applies to any flu virus circulating during the 2009-2010 school year, and you've received a copy of it. The new guidance recognizes the need to balance the risk of the illness among students and staff with the benefits of keeping students in school. Provides information for making the decision at the community level about when to use the strategies aimed at schools, and recommends that, based on current flu conditions, students and staff with flu-like illness stay at home at least 24 hours after they no longer have fever or signs of fever. And this is determined without the use of fever-reducing medications. The 2009 H1N1 has many of the same symptoms that the seasonal flu has, such as fever, headache, cough, sore throat, vomiting, and diarrhea, and is treated in much the same way. For us, the key points to remember are that to reduce the spread of this influenza, we must, number one, get a seasonal flu vaccine, get the H1N1 when it becomes available, and use the non-pharmaceutical interventions like hand washing, cough and cover, keep your hands up from your face, and disinfecting shared surfaces. H1N1 vaccines are expected by mid-October, so that's soon, it's coming, with the initial targeted groups being the pregnant women, the household contacts and caregivers for children less than 6 months of age, healthcare and emergency medical service personnel, children aged 6 months to 4 years of age, children and adolescents aged 5 to 18 years old who have health conditions associated with higher risk of medical complications from influenza. What has BISD done to prepare for the 2009 H1N1? They've been providing information on its website. They've been providing guidance information to school administrators, providing schools with posters and training on non-pharmaceutical interventions, providing parents with health information, monitoring the 2009 H1N1, collaborating with our local, state, and federal health authorities, and providing flu vaccine to our students. As a matter of fact, we started our first flu mist pilot and administered 350 flu mist vaccines to 5 elementary schools, Palm Grove, Aiken, South Mills, Del Castillo, and Cromac, from about 4 to 5:30 yesterday. And we'll be going back to those same sites 28 days later. We'll continue offering other campuses this same benefit. We provide constant surveillance and exclude students based on CDC guidelines. We're all keeping areas clean, fulfilling mandates. Thank you for the opportunity to present this. Do you all have any questions?
Anyone? Ms. Peña?
Have we kept up with how our district is doing as far as percentages of the virus as we speak now? Do we see a large number, or is it, where are we at in comparison to the rest of the country? Let me ask you that.
We started out on day one of school week at 42 exclusions for H1N1. Keep in mind that the flu that we are seeing at the present time is 99.1% H1N1. You don't have to have a CDC acclamation or a CDC swab to verify that. You know that. You see that. Today, last week, we had over 700. So it's prevalent, it's here, it'll be here for the next 2 years, and BISD will have to put up with it, because it's not going to go away. Other school districts are doing the same thing. There are school closures going on up in the Panhandle, and others in the middle of Texas, and we'll continue to face this time with flu. And so that's why I recommended the things that we already know and are very inexpensive, the non-pharmaceutical interventions.
And for the cases that we've had of these 700, how many of them have been severe to where they've caused hospitalization? Have we had many of those in our district?
No.
Thank God. Thank
And
you.
the cases that we've had are mild and moderate, and that's what you're seeing with H1N1. That's why the turnaround for school children is usually 24 to 48 hours are back in school. And that's what you're seeing with school closures. The maximum school closure is 48 hours. Students return to class. You already meet your mandates with programs that are waiting for those long school closures, but you're not going to see it with H1N1, not right now, from what we know about H1N1 right now.
Let me ask this as a person, not so much a board member, but when you get this, and we have children who have gotten it and gotten over it, what does it do to your system? Does it strengthen it, or are you more prevalent to get it?
I hope you develop an immunity to it.
That's what I'm asking.
We're recommending, American Academy is directing us, recommending that even though you've had it, you should go ahead and be vaccinated for it, because that first insult from the H1N1 would only be a certain percentage. You should go ahead and receive a vaccine.
Okay. Thank you. That's what I wanted to know.
Anyone else? We have confidence that the administration, you and your nurses and everybody else will take care of it. According to an email we received from Mr. Springton last week, Hannah had the largest number.
Yes, sir.
Last week. Is it decreasing or increasing? I mean, what's the latest at Hannah
The
High School?
irony of Hannah is that when we had the first insult of H1N1 back in April, Hannah was sort of eliminated from that group. We had a certain cluster of schools that were insult at that time in April. Now Hannah's turn. And you'll see peaks and valleys like that in a whole school district as H1N1 penetrates the whole city.
Anyone else? Mrs. Springton?
Thank you, ma'am, for all that you do.
Welcome.
Thank you, ma'am. Pat?
Item 3, presentation of the Texas Pre-Engineering Program, text presentation.
Mrs. Springton?
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. At this time, I will turn it over to Ms. Mumfos.
Mr. President, Mr. Springs, members of the board, we have with us this evening Dr. Raul Rudy Reina from San Antonio. He is the Tex Prep Executive Director.
Thank you, and buenas noches, good evening to everyone. Mr. Aguilar, Mr. Springston, members of the board, and members of the Brownsville ISD, members of the community. I'm honored to be here this evening to give you a brief update on a STEM program, Science, Technology, Engineering, Mathematics program, and to congratulate you because Brownsville ISD has been a partner with us for a number of years. And we would like to give you just a brief update on the program, and because it's been, I'm going to make sure we have this. Make sure everybody can see what we have here. Murphy's Law, this always happens. At any rate, well, it's coming up and so forth. The Texas Pre-Freshman Engineering Program has been around since 1979. It is a statewide program. It's one of the most successful and proven programs for preparing middle and high school students for, in essence, careers in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And we have been partnering with Brownsville ISD over the last 20 years. And while this is coming up and so forth, I'll let you know that the program itself has an academic component, it has a mentoring component, and it has a career component. Looks like we're getting closer. And the academic component, let's see if we can move back.
God bless you.
It's still coming, okay. Okay, good. It's almost there. So if we can get, okay, thank you. I think I'll just use this. I'll just give you a quick overview of the program, a little bit of overview of the enrollment history for Brownsville, where we're headed and so forth. And again, this is a program too that we're introducing some robotics as well, which is very key to kids getting engaged with the education program and so forth. And it's in the summer. And, but it's not a camp. It is something that's very rigorous, mathematics-based, and the students come for 7 to 8 weeks, depending on the location. I mentioned already our goals and to prepare kids for STEM careers. It is 7 weeks, 5 days a week, 6 hours per day, in some cases 7 because of tutoring. It's over 4 years, and we do have a mentoring component where we hire college students to help the kids with their homework, with their examinations and so forth. They act as role models. The students, even though they're middle school students predominantly, they do get high school credit, 1 high school elective credit for each summer that they complete successfully as authorized by TEA. Mentioned we have a career component where they get listen to speakers during the summer in the STEM fields. And we also, depending on the institution, provide scholarships in our partnership here in Brownsville, of course, is with UT Brownsville. I'm not going to go through the curriculum, but only to note that we have 4 years of the program. You can, I think everyone has a copy of the actual presentation. We provide logic and its application to mathematics, which is not taught in K through 12. Algebraic structures, same thing. That's not taught in the state of Texas anymore. And you see some of the other core classes that are offered each summer. Those are 2 of the core classes. There are several other courses that are offered every summer, which include problem solving. So the kids, if they're currently in 6th grade, they start the program before they enter 7th grade or 7th, 8th, or 9th grade, and they get exposed to all of those topics before they hit high school. And there's a research and study component, field trips, and then we have our year 4, as I mentioned. And whoops, looks like it did it again. So basically, I don't know if this is going to cooperate. This one's fine. Keep going back. Right there. If not, I'll just continue because we want to make sure that. Anyway, as I mentioned, the program has been replicated across the state of Texas. We have it in 30 institutions. Here in the Valley, we have it at McAllen, at Edinburgh, and at Harlingen, and here at Brownsville, of course. Let me just focus on this one. This is fine. Okay. Yeah. I think hopefully you can see that. I think we may have some problems with the slideshow itself, but this is the key that I want to mention for everyone. I think more than anything else, the program itself, we track our students. And one of the things that's very, very key is that 99% of them go to college. And even more important than that, 84% graduate from college. And I'm preaching to the choir. You all know this. That's 3 times the national average of any student in our nation. And I think even more important is that 53% of the students are female. Generally, about 38 to 40% are economically disadvantaged, and about 81% are minority students. So these are students who traditionally have been underrepresented in the STEM fields. And it's a great tribute to everything that we're trying to accomplish. I don't know how much more we'll be able to get into, but I would like to, I can show you a little bit of the work. Yeah, try it. No, it's not allowing us to go forward. I'm not sure if it's the processor, but bottom line is that we're looking at adding robotics to our program, and we're looking to continue to grow the program here in Brownsville. And I'd like to just see if y'all have any questions about the program, because y'all have been involved since 1987 as a school district.
Yes, sir. When, are you all also working with the high schools? I mean, what level of engineering are you wanting them to be graduating with as far as curriculum is concerned? And let me give you an example. Are you wanting them to get through calculus? You wanting them to get to differential equations? How far along the ladder?
Great. It's a great example. Great question. We have, since we start with middle school students, the middle school students are exposed to, in their mathematics applications classes, over 3 summers, to math starting with algebra, geometry, algebra 2, trig, and in some cases pre-calculus. Prior to them, if they started when they were exiting 6th grade, prior to them hitting high school. Okay. We've added a high school component now where they have 2 options, where they're actually, instead of getting into, some cases we are teaching here in Brownsville, they did get a pre-calculus last summer for the high school students that went through already years 1, 2, and 3. They come back for year 4. We're also going to be teaching them nonlinear problem solving, which is based on systems thinking and system dynamics, so that they can learn how to understand and address problems nonlinearly. And we're also offering a college credit opportunity so that once they finish the first 3 summers, they can come back, go to UT Brownsville, and in essence take a college credit course during the summer with college students. And we know that they do very well because our statistics, when we track them and so forth, show that they're going to do very well in college and so forth. So hopefully that helps answer your question.
Yes, thank you.
It's always an excellent program. I'm just wondering, you gave us some percentage of people going to college and graduating from college.
Yes, sir.
Are they statewide or is it BISD?
Statewide.
Do you have any statistics for BISD?
They're very similar because we put it all together. I can put them out. So I didn't bring specifically those with me, but basically across the state, they look very similar.
Well, I know statistics also, so,
But we can get those.
they're not similar, but I'm saying they probably fall within that range.
Yes, sir.
But if we can provide us with that information, I think it would be nice for us to evaluate the program itself and assess what the students are doing, BIZ students are doing.
Absolutely.
That would help us.
Yep.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir, we can do
Anyone
that.
else? Ms. Garcia.
Back in 1999, before this program didn't have any more funding, you had 253 students enrolled participating?
On a summer, summer by summer, they had gotten all the way up to close to 300 in some cases.
And right now, we're at 106?
Right, what happened is I think there was a period about 4 or 5 years where the area here had a large amount of funding that they were getting from TWC that dried up. So the program, in essence stopped during that time, and then we restarted it again. And since then, we're ramping it up little by little and getting it going. We're working very closely with Ms. Moore and her staff to together, get, address recruitment so we can get more kids involved, because it is possible. And in San Antonio, to give you an example, we had 2,200 applicants last summer for the program there. So it definitely is something that we're working towards to increase. And with our goal is to get to at least 300 by this next summer.
Is there a certain criteria that's required by the student to meet before they come into this program?
Right. The students need to be, in essence, recommended by teachers, B or better in basically math and science, because we want to set them up, for success and so forth, and to have, an aptitude in those areas. And they write an essay when they first start, and basically we look at conduct as well. And so those are the criteria.
Thank you, sir.
So actually, once we got the program back again, it really has improved and the numbers have increased.
And yes, sir, we're seeing an increase, and we'd like to continue working in that direction, and we're working closely with your staff at, within the school district. And they have been very helpful and supportive, and I think that's going to make a difference.
Anyone else?
I have one more question.
Ms. Garcia.
How are the students notified, or is it through the teacher that they are recommended to apply for this program, or how is it that you give them this information before they become aware of it?
What we do is we have presentations at each of the middle schools, and someone, Mr. Jose Amieva, who heads up the program at UT Brownsville, will coordinate closely with your staff, and they'll go out and present at each of the middle schools and get the students involved. And then what we need to do, and we're going to do this next summer, is also have additional follow-up so that we can, and we'll work closely with, the science and math folks, particularly the teachers, because they can also recommend students. Students that have an aptitude and that can do well, but at least the initial process is presentations to the students to make them aware of the program.
And starting grade level would be 8th grade? Or
No.
what grade would you take them?
We take them basically when the presentations are made to current 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, so that they can start participating. The youngest group would be students that are exiting 6th grade.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you, sir, very much.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
I just want to make a comment to Mrs. Springton. I was looking at this chart, and there's some schools that are not actively participating, really. If it's in the 7th and 8th grade, look at the number itself. Perhaps we can improve if the program is such a good program as it is. I wonder why not enough kids are really participating. In some of these middle schools are very low numbers. Anyway, Pat?
Item 4, presentation of notification of contingency fund change orders.
Mrs. Springton?
Thank you, Mr. President. We have, I think, 3 change orders or allowance expenditures. 2 of them we discussed in our facilities meeting. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. I also have Cesar is here, and I also have architects here if you have any questions on these allowances.
Anyone? Pat?
Item 5, rezoning plan for 2010-2011 and update of Veterans Memorial High School.
Mrs. Springton?
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board, members of our audience, and also our public. I'm going to turn this over to Ms. Fox. I know we have a presentation, and then I have the principal of Veterans Memorials here also.
Thank you, Mr. Springston, Mr. Aguilar, members of the board. As you know, we've been reviewing the proposed rezoning for not only the district, but for Veterans Memorial High School. And they do have a brief PowerPoint presentation for you here. Mr. Ben Estrada, from the assessment department that works with the numbers and the rezoning of the district, is here. And as Mr. Springston said, Mrs. Emil is here to make a brief presentation in conjunction with the rezoning for Veterans Memorial High School. So as soon as this gets going, we're ready.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are experiencing a bit of technical difficulty, but we do want to inform you of the progress of Veterans Memorial in a short presentation. Since we saw you last, we have been speaking to parents and to students, informing them of the programs that we will be having at Veterans Memorial. We have been talking to people who want to be part of this incredible school. And we have set about a schedule of events that are about to happen. We were visited by a representative from the U.S. Navy JROTC program who came to look over our building, and among his comments were that we had one of the top 5 firing ranges in the state. Hopefully it will come up. And we do have pictures, by the way, of the development of the school. And as far as presenting to students, we have been meeting with the middle school students. Last night we were at the open house for Stillman, and there's lots of wonderful feelings and questions and comments and questions. They all want to know what it's going to be all about. And so that was our opportunity to, thank you, to share the information with our students. And as far as this is our school, and these are pictures of our buildings. We will begin with 9th and 10th grade students. And we are committed to preparing everyone to graduate. That is our #1 goal. We will be offering a curriculum including the advanced classes, and we will be the magnet school for architecture and construction. Electrical engineering, that will include what you had asked last week about solar energy and wind power energy as well. We will also be the magnet school for leadership, government, and public administration. And we will have all of the career pathways, or most of the career pathways that our sister high schools have. These are the hallways. We will also be including manufacturing and STEMs, which is the program the gentleman was talking about. This is the back view. And the Performing Arts Theater. And that Performing Arts Theater will have the 5 performing arts included in the building. They will include choir, band, estudiantina, dance, and theater arts. And that is our JROTC. Our library with our cappuccino machine is coming up in a minute. And the kids are really excited about that. This is one of the amphitheaters. We have 2, and you see it's state of the art. Kids will be able to set up their computers and take classes. This is our cafeteria. One of the largest cafeteria, absolutely gorgeous, 16,200 square feet, and we're going to have a consulting, 3, as a matter of fact, firms come and give us a design for buildings. This hallway is the hallway that would separate buildings B and C, and this is upstairs. Our classrooms are state-of-the-art. Kudos to the science. And to everyone who has been part of this. And as you see, we're just preparing for when our kids come in, August 2010. From now, our Memorial Theater, 503 seats. And we anticipate that we're going to be getting lots of opportunities to share our installations with the district. Our choir room, and our band rooms as well. These are our practice rooms for the band, and the estudiantina and choir will have the same. This is our gym. It doesn't look like this right now because we just put the seating, but one of the excellent gym. And these are all the athletic events that we'll be able to have at Veterans. Now then, and as far as, and I know that In as far as what we will be able to offer, and going back just for the School of Architecture and Electrical Engineering, one of the, as I was mentioning before, we will be training our students to be certified, ultimately get certification at the college level, so that they can work within the construction and with the new smart technologies. Other than that, with our School of Government, we are making connections with the University of Texas in Austin, the LBJ School of Public Administration, and also the University of St. Thomas in Houston, as well as Southwest State University, in order to make those agreements that we can get our students who are going to be majoring in government and public administration and leadership the opportunity to keep on going. So with that, are there any questions? I will be
Anyone?
sharing the
Anyone?
information. Yes.
It's just awesome, man.
I know.
What can we tell you?
Mr. Aguilar, I just want to thank you and whoever came up with that mascot. It's excellent, the theme. I'm really impressed, especially the location and those that served our country. It's just really exciting to see that mascot because it does well for all those people who fought for our country. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
One last comment. I noticed our guests sitting on the front row here were looking at the school. I saw your comments when you happened to see the inside of the school and at the auditorium and all the things. Would you be excited to go in school there? Yes.
Would you want to come to the port and tell us about it? Any volunteers? Come on, come on.
I just saw your curiosity and your smiles. I appreciate that, okay?
On the, I have a question. On the
Yes, yeah.
rezoning,
Yes, ma'am.
on the rezoning, how is it gonna,
Okay.
how are you gonna be working it from what, let's say from one extension of what, Alton Glore or 802 West, or what is it that you guys are gonna be rezoning from?
There is a slide in the presentation that actually shows the zone, the proposed zone for Memorial. As soon as it gets there, I'm going to try and pause it so we can talk about it a little bit in depth. I think it's getting pretty close.
Can you stop it there?
Mr. Aguilar and Mr. Springston? So are we pretty much set in concrete for the rezoning at this point?
The rezoning, we revisit it, quite often.
Yes.
Because we want to make sure that the zones are conducive to the area and, of course, to the school. The main high school affected by the rezoning for this particular school is going to be Pace High School. Okay, once we finalize the zone for Memorial, and right now we're pretty close. We're pretty certain that this is what the zone is going to look like for Memorial. Once we finalize that zone, then from there we're going to start looking at all of the other high schools and seeing so that we how we can balance the schools and make sure that all of them are pretty much in line with each other.
I think what we really need to take into consideration as well is you have the certain distance of these areas that you can feed into that new campus. I don't see why we have to come all the way across if there is ever that is being looked at, that Coffee Port, this area. I know that Hannah's over, it's just extremely overwhelmed with students. Right. And those hallways, you can barely walk in them, and it's just 3,000 students in that campus, and it's a little community. So, but I just think that we need to consider the distance from the city itself. I mean, it's like, let's say, police department, you're going to take your police officer from the east side of town and send him to the west side of town. It doesn't make sense, because by the time this man gets to the other side, the distance is just too far.
Right.
So,
No, and actually the area that you're talking about, that small portion that was that's right now at Hannah, that's being proposed to be moved, we are reevaluating that area right now. And again, it's a matter of, we need to finalize the zone for Memorial just to make sure that, one, we don't overcrowd the school, it has enough room to expand and grow. Once we finalize this particular zone, then we start looking at everything else. In terms of zoning, what we do is we create a proposed zoning map, and then from there we start evaluating, looking at it to see where we can move, what areas can be affected, and so on and so forth. Nothing is set in stone as of yet. As it stands right now, we are reviewing the numbers, we're looking at the numbers. We're fairly comfortable with the numbers right now at Memorial. Once we nail those down, then we'll start looking at all of the other areas and then, moving areas back and forth to see what we can do to accommodate everybody else to make sure, as we always say when we rezone, we want to cause the minimum amount of disruption as possible.
Well, because I've noticed that the population is really, it's got enough. If you just look on the west side of town, on that area, you have a lot to feed into that school and alleviate some of the crowdness from Pace. You have the subdivisions that are back there on 802, which is not your east, not your north side, but not your south side, but the north side. I think it's where Old Spanish Trail is, your Weslico Road, your Laredo Road, all that area. Then you move on to Alton Glory. You have all those 4 or 5 new subdivisions. You have where your Iturri Elementary is, and then you have all the other surrounding areas around it that comes across to the Alton Glory that you probably might be able to alleviate from Hannah, because I know that there's some students that are coming from a Chaparral subdivision that are also zoned to Hannah, so you might want to look into also. I recommend administration to please look at all those venues, because if you start looking by little population of communities and the developments, that's where, I would hate for us to have to, from Coffee Port, I think Ms. Peña was sharing that information with me, that she had a concern that how are we going to be feeding from Coffee Port, Coffee Port is down here.
Right.
And I would say, Coffee Port is over here, but yet you have a lot of more population off of Alton Glory that you could be feeding and eliminating those to come to Hannah if needed.
Right. No, and if you look at the zone, I know I can't pull it up large because it'll move on to the next slide, but the one thing, the area that's missing here is you also have all of Rancho Viejo included in this particular zone. So like I said, we're looking at all of the numbers, and again, once we're fairly comfortable, and Mr. Springston can, I'm sure, attest to this, we're very close to finalizing the zone. Once we do that, then we start looking at everything else. And that is one of the areas that we are looking at.
From Rancho Viejo, how many streets do we don't have that much of a population from Rancho Viejo.
It's kind of hard without actually showing you a picture, but if you were to take Rancho Viejo and cut it in half, we probably get the back 2/3 of it. It's a very interesting dividing line between Los Fresnos and Brownsville.
Mr. Aguilar?
Just a minute, yeah. Ben, all this a good question going on, and when would that report be ready for us to really look at the final report? Mrs. Sprinter, you know, more or less?
We want to do a finalization on this like in the next two board meetings for sure in the next month.
Okay. Ms. Peña?
Yes, and I know I spoke of it last time in our last meet, and the last time you presented it, that I do have a big concern, and I'll say it again because that's what she's talking about. And you were here at that meeting.
Yes.
When I expressed concern, you're exactly a mile from Hannah, a mile and 2/10 of a mile, 1.2 of a mile from Hannah. The ones that you're moving over to Pace. Again, I reiterate, if you miss the bus, you walk to Hannah. If you miss the bus and you walk to Pace and the mall is on the way, you're going to make a detour. We might not find you at Pace. And we have a problem because I've looked at the area we're moving. Gasoline is high. We have one-car families. Mom, dad, go to work. You have a bus. If you miss it, I know you can walk. I want to take that into consideration and not have to have parents come over here and plead with us. This is my economic situation. Why are you doing this? I don't want that headache. It's needless. I don't want it to be done because you can. I want to do right by the people we represent, and I stress that wholeheartedly. I want to do right at the beginning. We will fill the school. You'll be at Veterans Memorial probably with a bigger number one day than Hannah. It's so beautiful. But the people, the parents have to have a choice. Some children don't have that choice because if they miss the bus, they're not going to school. So please, I really want the administration to please take that into consideration. That's really important to our children. And I thank you for everything you do.
No one else? Thank you, Ben. Ben?
Item 6, discussion and possible recommendation to review population of the neighborhoods within the Dana property for the new elementary school, Breeden. Board member request.
Mr. Springton.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the board, this was a board member request.
Ms. Garcia?
Yes. You know that the elementary there is Gallegos Elementary, which is where we're trying to build the other elementary. And I have a concern because, first of all, that property was purchased, it's 20 acres, and 20 acres are for the size of a middle school. And I drove around the whole area, and after looking at the numbers here, you know, I wish that administration would look a little bit further into that matter, because building another elementary there when we already have a fairly new elementary there, which is Gallegos Elementary, is not even 10 years old, and it's holding 685 students at this time, currently. It's not even maxed out. Elementary schools are built at least up to 800 students, if I'm not mistaken. Am I correct? That's the
850.
capacity?
Yes, ma'am.
850? So, right now, because I'm in the business of the real estate business, it's at a set still there. So, we're going to build another elementary school, not even 200 feet away, and it's going to also be 800 population, 800 students. So, you're going to have two schools back to back, which it's, you know, to me it doesn't make sense when this property, where we're going to get ready to break ground or bid out for construction, you know, I have a concern that that school is not going to really be needed as an elementary. To me, I think that we bought that property because you have Vela Middle School on Paredes, which has your Cameron Park, which has your, where Paredes line is, La Villita La Norteña. Then you come across, you have your Rag Daddy subdivision, which is all of that subdivision in the back, which is your, it runs into Dana. And then you have your older subdivision to right across Dana, which is like about 100 homes. And then you have all this open land that's, developers are not even developing there yet. And towards the opposite side, all of that is Los Fresnos already, because that does not, those properties do not even belong to the BISD taxpayer. I mean, we wouldn't be able to build in that areas. I have a concern because that 20-acre tract was purchased to be able to alleviate from Vela Middle School and Garcia Middle School, which are almost in the radius to be able to alleviate the crowdness of Garcia and Vela. So what are we doing? How are we going to be able to later on alleviate some of the crowdness from Vela and Garcia? We're getting rid of the 20 acres that we had bought just for that. I mean, I feel very uncomfortable that we're taking this action and moving so quickly because it was already voted on. And I think that administration needs to do a little bit more research on it, because there's no development going up. There's none. And I don't know since when, you know, we became so popular in selling properties around there, because there's not the demand like in other areas, like versus Country Club and just the other neighborhoods in the surrounding, April Gardens, Chaparral, Mission Trails. And honestly, I have a concern, because when I was told that 20-acre tract 10, 12 years ago when we bought it, that's what it was going to be used for. A middle school to be in the center of Vela and Garcia, to be able to alleviate the crowdness of the two existing middle schools. I just wish that we could reconsider everything. And I mean, I know that there's an issue because of the traffic at the other location, but I just think we're moving too quickly on this other elementary that's going to be only 200 feet away from the other one. And yet my numbers here, I mean, this is what comes from the enrollment, 685. And, you know, it's 175 students that we're low on with the elementary school. And then we're going to build another one?
Mr. Aguilar?
Ms. Peña.
I've got a question. If my memory serves me correctly, when we were looking at Breeden going into the country club, we had an issue because we felt we were being strong-armed because the city wanted us to pay a certain amount of money to get a road bill to have that school in that location. So I understand that it was going to cost us more money to do that. But when I saw the total that's going to cost us to come and re-engineer and look at the site and do everything, well, that money is going to be more than what it would have cost us to help the city build the road. So from what I looked at, we were better off putting it in the country club, putting out those 50,000 as opposed to 200,000 to have the engineers, architect go and look at the location and fit the school into the property, well, we're kind of losing in two ends. So I really do consider that a very valid point, that we need to go back and look at this seriously, because not only are we going to have two schools back to back that might not be filled to capacity because of the location, but we're going to spend $150,000 more with the architect than we would have spent if we would have just paid the $50,000 to get the road built that the city wanted. So I would like for us to reconsider that location and see what is best for our district, our community, and especially our taxpayers.
Thank you, Ms. Payne. Anyone else?
If, obviously, this school would be built within the next 2 years, correct? Or a year and a half?
Mr. Springton.
Because of the stimulus.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just to answer some of your questions, going back and looking at the blueprint that was set forth by the Board of Trustees back in 2004, all elementary schools were to be built on anywhere between 8 and 20 acres, middle schools between 25 and 45 acres, and high schools between 80 and 100 acres. I looked at the size. I looked at the QSCB bonds that were coming in. I looked at the issues back then about the building of the roads and opening up the passageways to and from the country club. The number of parents concerned about building a school in a location where they had a high volume of traffic. That was also a concern. I brought those concerns to the board at that time. Also knowing that it was going to lower some of the populations of a couple of schools, and the idea here for building Dan Breeden in the location off of where it was, since we do have several elementaries that are back to back anyway, and Ben, if I may use you for just a second, maybe not. What I had here was just some preliminary numbers doing our research, because we did want to go back and take a look at how it was going to affect the entire area. I've got Burns right now with about 1,130 students that will be going down to about 970, maybe 950. Paredes sitting right at 1,100 students. We'll be knocking them down to about 840 students. We have Hudson Elementary, which is one of our bigger elementaries right now, with 1,260 students. That will knock them down to, wow, almost 700 and a little over 700 students. We're looking at Gallegos Elementary right now, which has an enrollment of 885 students that would actually drop them down just a little bit to maybe almost 800. I'm sitting right at 800, am I correct? And then, of course, Breeden starting itself right about 700 students. And so we were looking at that overall, bless you, or excuse you, that we could look at that whole entire area, that we would repopulate or remove and kind of reshift those areas so that all those schools would be at a very usable number instead of having those in the 1,100 range.
Okay.
Am I correct with that, sir?
That's correct, sir.
Okay, I'm seeing here, and I don't know if I need my glasses on or off, because I've seen here twice with my glasses on and off. And it says here that Gallegos has 685, not 800. We're off by 165. And yes, Burns has always been maxed to 1,100 for the past 2-3 years. And Hudson has always been a school that everybody wants to send their. These schools are like your Hannah High School, you know, and you know. It is what it is. But let's look into it a little bit further, because I just came down from a training and they told me that a classroom has to be anywhere between 700 to 800 square feet. And then that an elementary school would be anywhere between, depending on the size, it should be no more than 15 acres. And this was by TASA that was giving me these. That's why I came back and, I'm like, I'm very uncomfortable that we're going to have to build, and none of the schools are 200 feet away from each other. The last schools that I remember that were like about 200, 300 feet away was your Cromac and Castañeda, and that was way back then when Back then, Southmost was booming, and those schools were needed like that. But right here, I have a concern, because when you're going to need another middle school, where are you going to put them? You have no more land that's going to belong to us. The rest of the land is, as you go into the demographics of the land that's available, it's Los Fresnos. Unless we're going to go back and tell TA, hey, now we need to take some of that land away because we're growing and we need to put our students somewhere. I just want this demographics to be studied a little bit further, because what other where can you put all those middle schools that are overcrowded? Where are you going to put that middle school? From the land that's available. And I've gone out there and I've driven around the boundaries, and the land, there's nothing where you're going to be able to build. There's not, and that's my concern, that we're going to build this elementary school, and to alleviate 200-300 students from each other school. Well, of course, it's like 600 students, but why not look at another venue? I have a serious concern with where the other middle school is going to come around.
Anyone else?
Mr. Aguilar, I just want to stress that I see her concern, and it's valid, because the mentality is, and if you look at the way we've laid out our schools, we have our elementary, the middle school near it, and then you go to the high school. So it would make a lot of sense to have elementary, middle school, and then high school, because not to have two elementaries next to each other. I never thought of that. I just hadn't stopped to look at the picture, and you should have an elementary and a junior high next to each other, so they feed into the school and they stay in the same area, because that's where they're living. And most people will stay in the area where their kids are getting an education and they're comfortable with the school system. And the schools that's people move to the location of schools most of the time. That's how they work, and that's how people sell properties. You have your elementary here, you have your junior high here, you have your high school. So it does make a lot of sense that we should go back and maybe revisit that. So maybe we should have the elementary at the country club and a junior high where Gallegos is. Just a thought.
Thank you, ma'am. Pam?
Item 7, discussion and possible recommendation to review the site of 20 acres on Dana Road, which was purchased for future population growth and the building of a middle school and not an elementary school. Board member request.
Yeah,
It's the same, we discussed it already. Okay, let's go on to the next. Is that all right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Let's go on to the next one, please.
Item 8, discussion with administration regarding the possibilities of the implementation of an FDIC high school course for juniors and seniors as an elective course for the 2010-2011 school year. Board member request.
Mr. Springton, I think Mr. Cortez also put this on the item, no?
This is the one that was moved to the... No, not that one.
No.
I don't know what that one is.
This still is,
Mr. Cortez?
It was me.
that was Ms. Preston.
On the, yes, Mr. Springston, I believe I wanted to share this with the board, because I know that Mr. Mr. Sharma had been here a while back, and it's really something that I think they've already started. But if I'm not mistaken, when I went up to one of the trainings, these are the CDs. These are like instructional, what they use at some of the districts in the East Coast. They're already using in some of the high schools. And what it is called Money Smart. But I would like to see how the curriculum can start working on maybe in the near future. I know that sometimes our seniors have all their credits and they're taking either library as an, just as a, what do they call it, one of those courses, an elective. And I think that this would be really, really good, because, I know that sometimes, like library, the students say, well, library, it is good for them so they can know, but what goes on at the library. But they also have like other electives, and I'm not familiar with all of them. But I think that this would be pretty interesting if we try to bring this to them. Mr. Sharma was right. I had already gotten these when I went to a training back in April, and then he came and introduced this to us. So I'm really pleased that this has taken off with some of the campuses. Mm-hmm. But if we could really, Mr. Springston, stay focused on it. I know that when I met with the people from the FDIC, all these CDs are free to the schools. They don't charge us a single penny for it. And if we need these, all we do is we tell them that we're going to implement it in our curriculum. I think this is wonderful. I think we're piloting already a couple of grades, I think 5th grade or something like that. But they even have them in Spanish for even, students that are, not familiar with the English language yet. It teaches you from checking, from savings, from borrowing. And I had spoken to a lady from
Ms.
IBC.
Garcia, I'm Bertha Garza.
Yes,
here.
Ms. Garza. So I'm going to let her introduce a little bit more, because she's been working already with some of our employees, and I really would like to see this happen, take it into more consideration, because I believe there was a law in 2005 that was, she can explain it a little bit further, because I was explaining that also in San Diego. So if we can just
Okay.
allow her to say a little bit about the program.
Thank you, Mr. President and board members. Thank you for having me here and for saying a few words on financial literacy and Money Smart. My name is Berta Garza, and I am Vice President at IBC Bank. I have been in banking and serving our community for over 37 years. I'm very excited to be here tonight and to talk to you about Money Smart at BISD schools. We are participating in a program called Brownsville Community Financial Access Pilot Program, an initiative endorsed by the FDIC and the U.S. Department of Treasury. Brownsville is the only city I know that is participating in a program of this kind. The FDIC and the U.S. Department of Treasury have been visiting and working very closely with us since June of this year. I represent approximately 90 volunteers in our community from all walks of life who are taking financial literacy to the 5th grade at BISD. We want this pilot program and Brownsville to lead in this initiative, and this is the reason why we are so committed to teaching Money Smart as our financial, and we're using Money Smart as a financial literacy vehicle. This is just the beginning. We are starting to plant that seed to the 5th grade, but we don't want us to stop there. Just imagine if by the time our seniors graduate, all could be financially literate. Imagine how much that could impact our community, and imagine how much their parents and their siblings could learn from them. That would be monumental in improving our community. Your community has started the process by covering the 5th grade. We now need your support and commitment to take this program to the high schools and even to the middle schools. Brownsville is on the radar screen of the FDIC and the Treasury Department. In November, the heads of FDIC and Treasury from Washington will be coming down to Brownsville to see our progress. The FDIC and the Treasury have the resources to support this program through Money Smart by providing free, yes, I said free, teaching material and free training all our teachers if you are willing to take action to do so. Tonight, we need your commitment. BISD has a great opportunity. Our young adults need this opportunity. I have a question for you. Are you willing to take advantage of this opportunity we have available for us, or are you willing to pass it on to another community? Thank you. If you have any questions regarding Money Smart and what we're doing on the 5th grade, we're available. We have been helped by BISD tremendously. Drew Brown was very influential in getting us started. Ms. Rosie Ayres is also very instrumental in getting it implemented. And we've just begun, but we need to prove on November, we need to shine. We need to showcase our community. And so that is my, question to you.
Mr. Cortez.
It sounds like a terrific program, and we know that when Mr. Sharma came in here, he was obviously very enthusiastic about it. And so it's something that the children do enjoy. But I think that this item would probably be best if we forward it to curriculum committee, so they can give a presentation on what it would take for the district to actually implement this program, or if it would fit into one of our existing classes where some of the teachers can get additional training and offer this as a supplement to one of the classes, or if it would be a separate class in and of itself. And all that needs to be done, and requested through, I think, curriculum committee. And that way the district can put together an appropriate plan.
That would be up to Mr. Kalunga to call a curriculum committee and get it going.
If I could mention that as chair of the curriculum committee, I'd like to request from administration that an item addressing this training be included for a curriculum committee meeting as soon as possible. Or, of course, I would need to request from board members additional items for curriculum as soon as convenient for administration.
Thank you, Mr. Columbo.
Thank you. Any other questions for me?
Ms. Garza, the law was passed in 2005 by...
Yes. I have a copy of the law if anybody wants to see it. It's Texas Legislature House Bill 492, and you can Google it and get the actual law there.
Anyone else? Mr. Springton.
While we're here, we might as well go ahead and share with what we are already doing. I know that you know that we're doing a lot, especially with our elementary schools and the things that we're doing. Ms. Monfils, if you'd like to share some of that information with us.
Mr. President, Mr. Springston, members of the board, right now we do have 24 elementary schools that are participating in Money Start. A couple of them started in September. Most of them are doing their kickoff here in October. We also have in the high school course listing guide an independent study course that is an excellent course that Money Smart could be probably implemented in, and of course we'll do some more research. This would be a wonderful opportunity because these independent study courses count towards the Distinguished Achievement Measure, the DAP measure for students who are looking for that DAP or that Distinguished Achievement seal on their diplomas. So those two things are very good. We also have, the Grants Department has just written a State Farm grant to State Farm, and in there we have included Rivera, Garcia, and Perkins, hoping to begin to work with Money Smart there, especially insofar as Rivera right now is our international business program, magnet.
Mm-hmm. In addition to that, I know Rosalba Larrasquito has also gone through the Money Smart training and had her staff go through it, and they're going to provide it to the parents because this is provided in English and Spanish. It's provided in CDs for adults and for junior adults. So definitely it's for all levels, and you can raise it to a college level or you can lower it to an elementary level. So it's very, very user-friendly as well. It's available for us to purchase, to order free, like I said, free material from the FDIC, and we just can't let that resource go. FDIC is so excited because we're such a low area and economic area that they're willing to help us, and so we definitely are taking advantage of some of it already at Rivera, and I encourage it in every high school.
Yes, ma'am. Is it possible for you, we can get these for free, am I correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Could you be kind enough to get some to us through our secretary so we can look at this and what they have to offer? I know Ms. Garcia already has some, and I've been trying to get a hold of some for a while now.
And yes, ma'am, I can surely do that. In fact, when Ms. Garcia attended one of our classes, it was a class from, it was called Meet the Trainer. We invited the administrators to meet the trainers that we have out there, and she brought to our attention that San Diego had this in place or similar, program, and I brought it up to the head of the FDIC, and he said, definitely, it just depends if your college or your university around your area will give you credit. Just this is a product that can be given credit to the seniors. So definitely this is the vehicle that is very positive, has lesson plans, very user-friendly for the individual. So I can get, how many copies do you need?
I guess 7 because Ms. Garcia already has a set.
Okay.
6 is fine.
Definitely.
No, for Mr. Springsteen, so we can get him a
Oh, okay.
set de una vez, you know.
Okay. I will
Please.
go ahead and get them to you.
Thank you. If you could
you.
just contact Ms. Pat Perez, and she'll get them to us.
Okay.
Thank you so much for
Thank
your
you.
time.
Thank you, Ms. Garza, for
Thank
being
you
here.
very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Item 9, discussion and consideration on changing board policy BE local regarding scheduling of regular board meeting from first and third Tuesday of the month to one regularly scheduled board meeting and one board workshop per month. Board member request.
Mr. Springton, I think this is the one that Mr. Cortez.
Yes, sir. This is for Mr. Cortez.
Mr. Aguilar, this is an item that I had placed on, asked to be placed on the agenda at the last meeting, but as you guys were in D.C., I asked for them to pull it and bring it back when Mr. Springston was here. And one of the reasons that I wanted to bring it up at this time was because recently some of the board, along with Mr. Springston, attended that Texas Institute for School Boards in New Mexico. And back when I attended that event, one of the things that they made a strong push for was that large districts like ours, that they restructure the way that they conduct their school board meetings. And in an effort to save time at the superintendent's office, all administration, structured in a manner where you have one school board a month and a workshop. At the workshop, if I recall correctly, go over each of the items that would be on the upcoming agenda, review it, and give everybody an opportunity at that time to ask whatever questions that they have, so that when we actually have our board meetings, all the items would pass in consent, and we can spend time doing what we really ought to be doing, like what we did earlier today. We spent an hour celebrating, 42 recognized and exemplary campuses. There's so many children that receive accolades, and we're not able to celebrate with them at this board because the accomplishments are too numerous, and if we were to consider going into one of these type of modes, then it would give us the opportunity to celebrate more of these kids at these board meetings and acknowledge them for their hard work and efforts and accomplishments that they've earned. And so that was kind of the rationale for bringing it up. But I know that they had called me. I had worded it differently, and I guess that was my fault. But this is not something I want to send to a policy meeting unless really the entire board is in agreement with a move like this. Obviously, it's not one person makes a decision like this, but I just kind of wanted to get a feel for what administration felt, and I know that Mr. Springston was going to look at some of the other districts that did have this type of format to see what it would be. I mean, just to begin a discussion as to what other large school districts are doing and if they're doing these similar type meetings. So I don't know if you were able to get any information, Mr. Springston, you could share with us today.
Springton.
Yes, sir, Mr. President, members of the board. In your packet, starting on page 156, I put a schedule of what a school board meeting looks like for HISD. And they meet, they have workshops, they have hearings, they have an agenda review 3 days before they would have their board meeting. They would actually have their board meeting, and then they would go into workshops. And they usually meet 4 times a month. But it's a little shorter, but everything is more precise. And to be more effective, I have been in contact with Don McAdams. We met Mr. McAdams in Santa Fe, Ms. Presses, Mr. Zayas, and myself. And in fact, he and I are having a conference call tomorrow at 11:30 to talk about a possibility of a free workshop that he would like to provide this board, and to also look at some of these types of information. And I can provide more examples from other districts as per your request, and kind of look at this and make some decisions and give y'all more information on some Friday letters, and then we can make some decisions on what direction we would like to go.
Mr.
Peña.
This is just me. Sometimes it's hard to find us twice a month. And according to this schedule, the way ISB, it kind of, I don't buy it. Let me just put it that way. You only have one meeting. They have a workshop August 6th, agenda review August 10th, regular meeting August 13th, and a workshop August 20th. They meet 4 times a month. and they only have one, which what I'm seeing here in black and white is they meet 4 times a month, but only 1 time a month will they approve stuff that needs to be approved to change and move on. So it kind of defeats the purpose of having just one board meeting a month. It looks like they're just having one board meeting where they make decisions, take action, and are constructive. The rest are just review. I like to do everything all at once. When somebody brings something forward, we have to approve a field trip, we have to approve teachers going out. Well, they have to wait for that 1 time a month. The rest of it is just discussion, and it kind of defeats the purpose, because we have a hard time, ladies and gentlemen, just meeting twice a month. Now I know why HISD is successful with 1 meeting a month, because they meet 4 times a month. So that's just my opinion. Doesn't really help our situation.
Anyone else? Doctor?
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, the only way that I would see our meetings lasting longer, or one of the reasons, is if the amount of business changed, and it's not changing. We're going to have the same amount of business whether we meet once, twice, 3 or 4 times a month. Now, I think your idea is good. You have the right intention. But here I feel like we're trying to fix something that isn't broken. You know, Houston does it the way you suggested, and that's fine. But I know that there's districts in this country that are holding their meetings as we are because we're doing it. You know, when we were in Las Vegas, when we at one point when we were the #1 board of the country, districts came and questioned us on our agendas and our meetings, and they're adjusting to us. So I don't feel that we need to adjust or change our meetings as another district is doing just because we feel that they're doing it more efficient. If we want to be more efficient, perhaps we need to be more concerned as to how and why we circle items, we submit agenda item requests. Sometimes our discussions become very redundant. I think if we can control that, then we would limit our meetings to a reasonable amount of time. But unless we're going to be taking care of less business per month, I don't see how our meetings or how we will save time by dividing up the agenda.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
And maybe that would be a good fix, Dr. Escobedo, you know? I mean, there's a lot of repetition, a lot of needless agenda items that can be sent to different committees for discussion. You know, but again, this is just an option for discussion. And again, you know, as chair of policy, I could have referred it to policy, but I didn't feel that that would be appropriate because not every board member shows up to all the different committee meetings. If you're not one of the ones that sits on it, then not necessarily required to be there. And so I felt that this whole board, I would like just to hear what their thoughts are, and I appreciate your opinions, and you know.
And I applaud your intent. I know you're trying to do what's best and you're trying to be more efficient, so I thank you for that.
Anyone else?
One comment I want to say is, I think a lot of times what makes these meetings even longer is when we have a mixture of the level 3 meetings and mixed up with our regular business. I don't know if there's a way that we can limit our level 3 complaints or whatever, grievance hearings, to 1 meeting out of the month, because if we can just do business without having that, we could shorten our meetings quite a bit. It's those meetings that we mix both of those where they turn out to be pretty long.
And a lot of that depends on the board president, superintendent, when they meet prior to finalizing the agenda. If we have a lot of conference presentations, well, let's try to limit the grievances if possible. I mean, sometimes they are urgent, but if they're not particularly as urgent that they need taken voted on that particular time, then we can certainly divide our agenda items appropriately. In a day like today where we had the schools, the exemplary recognized schools, well, we know that's going to take an extended amount of time, so we limit the other conference presentations. 9 conference presentations of this magnitude are quite significant for 1 meeting.
Right. Anyone else? Mr. Colunga.
I would agree that there is consideration for ideas that come from those who do research in school board reform, and in order to address those issues, it's necessary to look at how to make meetings more efficient, even though it can be argued that there's nothing wrong with the current system. There is something wrong in long meetings that last until midnight. I think it's something that's worth considering would be
Yes, this one's going
the workshops that will prepare questions. I know a lot of the time that we spend is in dealing with new material or items that don't have any background, board members that may not make the information available to everyone. So I think it's worth looking into as something that would improve or make the meeting more efficient than what they are now.
Anyone else?
You know, if
Mr.
I could
Cortez?
just make one final comment. I mean, if it would be okay with the board. I mean, again, this is one of those issues where it involves all of us, and so I wouldn't want to bring an item like this to policy if really I was going to have a lot of resistance from the board. But maybe this is an item that we can bring to policy to figure out ideas on, submission of agenda item requests, repetitive items, on more authority for the president in reviewing the agendas and deciding some of these things like you mentioned, Dr. Escobedo. Those are all good ideas, and maybe we can explore some of this, not necessarily having to go to one meeting a month, but explore some possibilities. Mr. Sias mentioned maybe do grievances at one meeting a month only. Those sorts of things that may prevent our meetings from going till 12 or 1 o'clock in the morning.
And also what might also help is that we read our background information. Some of us, I'm assuming, but it's very evident when we come here to this meeting that some of us do not read the backup information, and we ask questions to the administration that should have been answered if we have read the backup information. Not only that, but also if there's a question on these items, what do we do, Dr. Scoville? That board member should call the superintendent and say, I have a question on this, can you solve it, rather than to submit a board request agenda that prolongs the meetings. So there's other things we can improve that we do it, because all we need to do is pick up the phone and call the superintendent, or superintendent in this case, and say, look, I don't understand this item, can you explain it to me? And sometimes we don't want to listen to what the explanation we want, so what do? We say, I'm going to put in the request. And this goes on and on. So yes, we can say, well, let's not listen to his request. And what happens? We're going to have board members very unhappy because you didn't submit my request. So I think there's a lot of things that we can do as a board members that will improve our meetings. And definitely, you all agree that we need to improve this, whether we want to remodel the structure. But I have a problem with that because there's a policy concerning this. And I think that's, in my opinion, I think that's where we should start, you see, because the policy says that we should have 2 meetings, right? And so perhaps a conference or an in-service that Mr. Springton was talking about with this gentleman that you all apparently have met, perhaps he can enlighten us, or perhaps he can give us more information or other ways how to improve our meetings that would be beneficial to us. I'm welcome to those suggestions that we can look as a board members as a whole. I'm in favor of that, to invite this gentleman and talk to us. We can have one of those, and maybe we can get credit for it also.
Mr. Aguilar, just to point out, it was Don McAdams that had shared this idea back with me back in 2007.
Yeah, but perhaps he has not heard some of the things that we're concerned about, that we can compromise somewhere along the way. And I think he can perhaps give us a better understanding if we would share some of the things that we are talking here tonight. Sias.
That conference was really a great conference, and if he's willing to come down here and do it for free, I mean, we'd be fools not to take that.
My conversations, may I, sir?
Yes, sir.
In my conversations with him over the past several weeks, more or less, that he was looking at some grant money to be able to provide training for certain districts in the state of Texas. And for those people who don't know Mr. McAdams, former Houston school board member, and also works with the Broad Foundation and working with school boards and doing trainings throughout the state of Texas. And so when he contacted me and offered me an opportunity to listen to him about a possible grant that would benefit BISD and its board members, we are making that conference call tomorrow at 11:30 and have an opportunity to look at some possibilities, and that's what we want to do.
We'll give him a letter of support for that grant.
Mr. Aguilar, and you'll keep us abreast of what happens and what comes out of that meeting, we'd really appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am, I will.
Anything we can get for free, you get it.
Anyone else? Pat?
Item B, standing board agenda item, board calendars.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have a lot of things going on. Tonight, right now, as we speak, we are, we just finished open house for our high schools. Tomorrow, scheduled Southmost Elementary Blue Ribbon Celebration at 1:30. On the 8th, we start our kickoff rally, Wellness Center at Sam Stadium from 9:30 to 11:30. Also, a reminder to everyone that it is elementary open house, 5:30 to 7:30. On Friday the 9th, we have our Buddy Fun Meet, which is the Rivera, the Porter, Lopez clusters from 7:30 till noon there at Sam Stadium. On the 10th, we do have a scholastic chess tournament. Our migrant students' path to scholarships from 8:30 to 2:30 p.m. at the Central Auditorium. And on the 12th, we have our National School Lunch Week, which is October 12th through the 16th. Also want to mention and make mind to everyone that on the 12th is our move-in day for Raquel Pena High School, Elementary School. If y'all have not seen the pictures, we have some pictures here for you that we have set up. It is absolutely gorgeous. If you get a chance to go by and take a look at that school, it is fantastic. And the other thing that I want to mention, on the 17th, we have our Pigskin Jubilee at Donna High School. If you have not ever gone out to watch our fine arts program and the bands as they're performing, it is fantastic. It is on the 17th, and I do also want to make a mention that will come a little bit later on the 24th is our Walk for the Future. That is where we are inviting and putting together a plan for the entire district and community to get together, and if we have locations that we have identified for students that may be potential dropouts, we're going to go out and do an opportunity to talk with these kids, these young adults, to see if we can get those students re-enrolled back into our schools, and as a community effort, as a BISD effort, and I'll have more information that I will put in a Friday packet to you. And we'll be inviting board members, community members, our own administration to be a part of this endeavor that we're trying to get our kids and get them back in school.
I also would like to encourage the board members to take part on this endeavor. It's beautiful. Some of the school districts, they do it, and board, not only you have community leaders, but also the board members going house by house. It's a great experience. Thank you, Mr. Springton. By means, let us know when that happens and what do we need to do.
Yes, sir, I will.
Item 9, public audience. The next item on our agenda is a public comment period. This is a time for citizens, staff, or students to provide their comments to the board. Statements and questions from the audience will not be permitted during other portions of the meeting. So please let us hear from you now if you have comments to present. To have your comments heard tonight, your name and subject matter of your comments must appear on the sign-in sheet, which is located in the rear of the meeting room. Each speaker will be limited to 5 minutes to complete his or her comments. With all due courtesy, the presiding officer will strictly enforce that time limit. If a group of people want to be heard on the same topic, the board asks that they designate a spokesperson to avoid needless repetition. The board has adopted rules to preclude the abuse of open forum by, for example, anyone uselessly repeating the same comment or complaint meeting after meeting. All participants must understand that if your comment, in the judgment of the presiding officer, constitutes a complaint against an employee or officer, the presiding officer will interrupt and ask you to stop and direct you to proceed with the BISD's formal grievance procedures, be that DGBA, FNG, or GF local. With those cautions in mind, we will now be glad to hear the general comments.
Tonight we have one, Dr. Olga Flores from PDAP.
Thank you. We're honored to be here tonight. Before I begin, I wanted to make sure that you all had these packets that we had placed before you all. I'm Dr. Alberto Edmundo Almeida. I'm a board-certified family practice physician here in Brownsville, and I'm also the president of the board for Palmer Drug Abuse. I thank you today in behalf of Palmer Drug Abuse and every man, woman, and child who's found themselves at our doorstep at a crossroads in their life, trying to make maybe the most important decision in their life between either continuing under the bondage of drug and alcohol addiction or to live a drug-free life as God intends for us. I think it's safe for me to say that there's not one person in this room that has not been touched either directly or indirectly by a loved one or someone they know that has been ravaged by drug abuse. And now what's sad is that they're targeting our youngest children. They're making drugs that are specific to young kids, such as something that they call Strawberry Quick, which is a pink methamphetamine made to look like a children's pop rock. They're making heroin so that it can be snorted or smelled by kids so that they soon become IV drug users. And this is sad and true. We have a crisis situation, an epidemic with our youth and in our Brownsville community. I'm here on behalf of, we have a close working relationship and history working with BISD, with the BISD Chief of Police, with the City Chief of Police, with the City of Brownsville Municipal Court, and many other crisis and intervention organizations. And I think that because of our close working relationship with our kids and BISD, we're here today asking on behalf of PDAP for BISD to assist us with to provide direct contributions to our children. And we're suggesting two forms of that and any other suggestions that you have. One would be, there's a precedent for this, and in the past we had BISD would give funds annually to PDAP. We're suggesting that maybe we look into either through stimulus package or to safe and drug-free schools, something for us to continue assisting BISD and our children. The other way is that we're suggesting also that we have additional legally required deductions from payroll for any of those BISD employees that wish to help. We've had a lot of calls and a lot of talk from teachers, counselors, etc. We're real fortunate this time to have a very strong and very well-educated director at Palmer Drug Abuse, which is Dr. Olga Flores. Before you is a lengthy CV, which gives all her accomplishments and her training, and I'm on the board assisting also, so I'm going to let Dr. Olga Flores continue to speak. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It is an honor to be here in front of you, Interim Superintendent, and very loyal board members. I have seen you all around for a very long time. I'm here because I need help. I've been trying to, get this contributions to PDAP. I did a campaign, and I was very welcomed by the schools. I contacted the interim superintendent's office prior to doing this. I never received any callbacks. I contacted him afterwards because it seems like I cannot get the money funneled to PDAP. I have close to $5,000 here that employees, teachers, counselors that have been working with PDAP want us to continue the job in helping them. We are implementing through this contribution what's called a prevention team. I was hoping to get on your agenda, and unfortunately I was not able to do that either. And I have been going through Drew Brown. I have been going through to the CFO, Mr. What is his name, Brown? Ruiz Brown, and he mentioned that there is a policy, and he is hopeful that we will be able to do our campaigns just like other nonprofits. We have been working with your kids for over 26 years. We're the only ones that are free to them. We want to continue to work with your children, but unless we get help from BISD, our doors will be closed, literally. And it is very unfortunate because there is a rampage of drugs, in your schools. I know it. Higher learning is the first thing that it attacks, and that's the reason many of them are dropping out. I get from 11 to 12 years old coming into PDAP already hooked on crack cocaine. I have been working with JJAEP for the past 2 years, and we had great success. Unfortunately, that grant ended. We worked with 179 students, and you have statistics in here. I'm on the task force with the juvenile judges, especially Ben Needs and the task force, to try and see how we can save these kids from going to BAC or going to JJAEP, and instead implement a program where we're going to be able to provide counseling, family counseling, support groups, and specialized training such as drug offender education, tobacco awareness. This is state certifications that are needed to do this. We're trying to implement this for your kids as they're referred to us through the BISD chief of police and through the principals, the counselors, that we are giving these presentations. And I really would like your help in trying to get PDAP to get the money that has been awarded to them from the counselors that we've been working with for many years. Any questions?
No, well, I'm glad that you're working real hard, and I'm sad to hear that now that you're in a very financial difficulties. You're talking to someone that started PDAP 26 years ago in my office as a counselor, together with Mrs. Renfro, Mrs. Hatch, Mr. Moreno, Mrs. Moreno, and Mr. Lopez. And it was a struggle. Fortunate for us, the community at that time were able to donate about $85,000 that we started the PDAP movement. Probably you were part of that at Pace High School when we got going.
That's right.
And in fact, the building was donated by the church right across Martin Elementary School. And I see they're still there.
It's still there.
And it's always been struggle to get monies and to keep it going. We had up and downs, but I'm glad to hear that it's still there after 26 years. The efforts were not in vain.
That's
and
right.
I'm sorry to hear this, that our community has not responded. I would like to recommend that you make an appointment with Mr. Sprinton, our interim superintendent.
Okay.
And then he will himself make some recommendations to the board. Mr. Cortez?
And Mr. Aguilar, also, if maybe at the next meeting, Mr. Springsteen can put a conference presentation, just so we could see what the district's already doing in these efforts when it involves JJAEP. And she showed some forms. There's obviously district staff that's willing to donate. I know that other organizations come in, or associations, or unions, United Way, and people give freely out of their monies to support causes that they feel are important to them. And maybe, PDAP should also be afforded equal opportunity like any of the other organizations to come in. And if somebody wants to donate from their check and have it auto-drafted and go into an organization like this, I would hate for an organization like Palmer Drug Abuse to after 26 years, just not be able to service the needs of the children in Brownsville.
Well, it's always, you need to work hard.
And I really
I'm glad you're
appreciate
doing
that.
it.
And
we're
we
gonna
want to be
somehow-
consistent.
May I? And we're going to do something that we can help you with this. I'm really concerned about why the United Way dropped you as an organization. That is one of the things that normally it's kind of rare that they drop someone for not being a agent to receive funds. But again, I would like to see you and Mrs. Sprinton meet together, and like Mr. Cortez say, perhaps give us a presentation later on in another time. Anyone else?
So if need be, you just bring back the agenda item that I had already placed. So just let me know once you discuss with them, please. Okay?
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Pat?
Closed meetings pursuant to the Texas Government Code, Section 551074 and
Excuse me.
551.
We have someone waving back there. Mr. Aguilar, was he on the
he's-
list?
No, he's not in the.
Not signed up.
Oh.
I'm sorry, John,
Right, I was at open house doing my teacher
We
stuff.
could make an exception for that, couldn't we?
He's a teacher.
It's your meeting, Mr. Aguilar.
well,
He was at open house,
you were in an open house, or,
5:30, 7:30.
I think we should.
go ahead.
Our own open house.
Go ahead.
Our own, yeah. Are required him to be there open house.
As an employee of the district,
Did you go to the open house, sir?
Yes, sir.
How many parents did you have?
13.
How many?
13.
Divide that by 3, how many minutes would you give him?
No more than 5.
Go ahead, John.
Well, thanks a lot, and I'll be very brief. And I want to say that it was, even though 13 might not sound like a lot of parents coming in, it was really a good open house. For me, I think it was probably the open house where I've had the most quality interactions with parents that I've ever had. I feel like we really got some things accomplished there. So, and thank you, members of the board and Mr. Springsteen, for allowing me to come up. I was going to speak very briefly, and I really wanted to come up because I've been hearing you talk about the length of the meetings, the frequency of the meetings, and the conduct of the meetings, and I have recently been kind of feeling some empathy for you guys because these meetings are long and involved, and the discussion goes to a level of great detail sometimes, and I appreciate this board, and I don't want you guys to get bogged down and burned out and overburdened with this work, and I would really support you in your efforts to move the meetings along and have them be efficient and have them be efficient in terms of your time. So I really support you in that. The suggestion to limit the level 3s to once a month, I might have a concern that might not provide a timely resolution to some people who have brought grievances. So I would ask you to consider that carefully. Since we've last been up here, I've attended the Broad ceremony in Washington, D.C., which I feel was an honor for our district again, and also really a fantastic opportunity in that our district personnel got to meet and network and speak and listen to the crux of the educational community in the United States today. They were all there. And I'm so glad that the district had that opportunity. I traveled as a teacher representative, and not everyone agrees with everything teacher representatives say or even wants to hear it, but I did get some words out of my mouth, and I'm glad I had the opportunity to do that. And by the way, I'm willing to say more about what teachers feel is good and important if anyone wants to listen. And my last thing I just wanted to say is I know that there's a number 14 on the agenda is the PDAS appraisers, and I think the PDAS is a good system for appraising teachers. In fact, there's a big movement in the United States to just kind of look at the test scores that the teacher students produce and say, that's all we need to know about you. Thanks a lot. And there's real problems with that. And the PDAS is kind of in the other direction. It's wide-ranging. It looks at everything we do. And but I want to say that, you know, I'm experienced in this district, and I talk to a lot of teachers, and I hear this a lot, which is that the PDAS system is being engineered, that people have been told by appraisers that you will appraise these people the way I tell you to before you even go see them. It's rigged. And, you know, example of that might be there's going to be no teacher rated as exceeding expectations at a school that's not exemplary. And that's not right. That's not the way it's set up. And so it's a good system is only as good as the people who are running it. And so I urge you to use your checks and balances, use your good administrative abilities to make sure that these teachers get a fair appraisal. And the PDOS is fairly important. It determines things down the road for teachers based on how they're evaluated. I kind of don't want to end on that negative note, so I want to say thank you again for allowing me to come up. And I really am seeing a lot of really wonderful things at the beginning of this school year in the classroom, and the kids and the parents. And I know we have elementary open house tomorrow night, and I would encourage, because I know people are watching on TV, I really would encourage parents to go. There's electronic communications today, but there's nothing like face-to-face. So thank you again, and good night.
Thank you, John. Pat?
Closed meeting as pursuant to the Texas Government Code, Section 551074 and 551082. Item 11, parent complaint number 002/09-10, Thomas and Rosalinda Garza. 812.
That deli ham or whatever. No, she ate it, don't worry.
There's no action taken on the federal, right? No. So we're just going with the next item.
Item 16.
This meeting now comes to order, please. Ms. Pettis?
Item 16, recommend approval to rescind agenda item 11B37, approved at the regularly scheduled school board meeting of 9/15/09 to pay Valley Speech Language and Learning for supplies and materials.
Ms. Garcia?
Yes, on that one, I had seen the notes here. Why was the reason that we were bringing it back? Was it just the wording, or in the previous board meeting? Was that it?
Yes, ma'am. Members of the board, the wording should not have said pay. It should have said approval to purchase. And that was a mistake on my behalf. So I brought it back to the board.
Are we just rescinding, or are we going to
Rescinding.
rescind and then we're going to change it back, or what are we doing?
Rescinding it on item 16 and then bringing it back to you on item 17.
The correct version.
The correct version of what it should be.
So we already approved an expenditure for an item that was incorrectly worded.
Yes, sir.
That's what
Okay.
happened.
That is
I move
correct.
to approve.
Have a
16 and 17.
I'm sorry?
16 and 17.
Second by Mr. Sides. All those in
second.
favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Pat, number 17.
Item 20,
20.
recommend approval to submit the class size waiver petition to the Texas Education Agency for grades K through 4th for the fall semester of the 2009-2010 school year.
Springton, I have Mr. Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. Waivers mean any classroom that has the over the 22-to-1 ratio, and right now we're sitting at 11 total.
11 classrooms?
No, 11
11
students.
students ratio.
11 students that are over the threshold of 22-to-1 out of all of our elementaries. Go ahead, ma'am.
Mr. Springston, Mr. Aguilar, members of the board, the form on page 199, it's 11 sections. Each section, meaning each classroom, we have to designate has to have 22 or less students. If you look on that, you see that from those schools listed, there were 7 sections in kindergarten, 3 sections in first grade, and 1 section in 4th grade. None of those classrooms had more than 24. It was either 23 or 24. This tally was taken on that, right under that table, it says September 11th. So on September 11th, we had to take a tally, and on that particular day, we had 7 classrooms in kindergarten throughout the district that had more than 22 students. We had 3 in first grade and 1 in 4th grade, but I can assure you that none had more than 24. It was either 23 or 24.
Mr. Cortez.
Ms. Fox, Mr. Springston, none of these schools have any other classrooms in those particular grade levels, like kindergarten. There's 7 between Egley, Garden Park, Gonzales, Ortiz, Southmost, and Iturria. There's 7 that you say are beyond the 22-to-1. Are any of the other classes in that grade level below 22-to-1? Or is it because you're not wanting to move kids into other classrooms
No, each of those campuses had the maximum 22 in each classroom on September 11th. And for example, at Egley, in addition to having 22, 3 of their kindergartens had more than 22. So no, we moved as many students as we could, and we added as many teachers as needed to get that down under the 22. However, on the day that it was taken, for example, 3 sections still at Egley had more than 22, but not more than 24.
And I know last year we, if I recall correctly, we approved maybe like 3 or 4. This time we're looking at 11.
For this one semester only, yes, sir. We'll do this again in January. The state only approves the waivers for one semester at a time. So this is for the fall semester.
Do you know what the increase is attributed to as opposed to last school year?
Specifically by grade, I do not. However, the district has grown by 700 students this year, district-wide. I just would have to look to see if, in what grades they were.
So in all likelihood, next semester it'll remain the same or increase if there's additional students that come into BISD?
That's possible, yes. And if we were to add a teacher next semester, or even now, if we were to add a teacher, it would mean reshuffling a number of students if they've got no more than 24. So we look at that and try to, and we did add, I believe, 5 or 6 teachers. Hudson got 2 additional teachers, Burns got an additional teacher, and therefore they're not on this list because they were considerably over 24. They maybe had 28 or 27 or 28. So we had enough children to make another section. We also try to do those rearranging of students during that first couple of weeks of school. So it has a minimal impact on the students having to leave their teachers, especially at these early grades of kindergarten and first grade. So we try to do that as early as we can during the first 2 weeks of school so that there's minimal impact, not only on instruction, but just on the emotional side for kindergarten and first grade children to have to change their teacher.
Mr. Aguilar?
Yes, Ms. Mayor, let me go back, Ms. Garcia, she had also circled it.
Okay.
Let me go to them first. Ms. Garcia?
So what we're going back and we're going to try to just keep them at the standard number of students that we're supposed to have in the classroom. And you reshuffled some of these students to other classes that had less or within the campus?
Yes, well, we try to even them out. If we have a classroom that has 18 and another class that has 22, then we try to move kids around to even those numbers. Or if we have a classroom with 24 and another one with 20, then we would try to even them out to where they're 22 equal.
Mr. Sayas?
No, my questions were answered.
Okay, Ms. Peña?
At this point, really, we have no other recourse other than to have this approved.
That's correct.
Because we're pretty much at the end.
Right, that's
So
correct.
Not to do this would be in violation, right?
Right, it's a requirement of the state.
I move to approve.
Move to approve by Mr. Sayas, second by Mrs. Peña. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Pat?
Item 24, discussion, consideration, and possible action, forwarding the findings of fact by hearing examiner Victoria Guerra to Rita Chase with TEA, along with any other information that she may need. Board member request.
Mr. Cortez?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Springston. Early this year, I don't know, maybe Rick, you recall, February, March, April, one of the times that we were in Austin before we came back from one of the visits that we were up there, we had some time between the time we had to depart, take our flight, come back home. We had an opportunity to visit with Rita Chase during the process of the Hector Gonzalez investigation. And one of the things that Rita Chase had requested at that time was that at the conclusion of the investigation that we would forward everything to her office. And I know that when we got our packet, on the cover letter of who received it, there was an individual from TEA that received it. But my understanding is that person is the person that's in charge of hearing examiners only. And just to comply with what she had asked of us, when we were there, I would like for this board to move to send all the information of Victoria Guerra's report and any other relevant information that she may ask for. Because at the time that we visited with her, when we were showing her some of the areas of concern, she identified other violations that we hadn't even noticed, things that we weren't aware of. And, you know, maybe TEA looks at it a little bit differently. You know, maybe they're going to find more than what was able to be found. At that point, you know, we asked if what we were doing was the correct procedure, and she said yes, and that at the conclusion, if she felt that her agency needed to look at this matter further, then that it would. If she felt that she needed to agree with the findings, and that at that point that she and her agency would make their own determination on whether it was sufficient or whether it needed a further analysis or more of an in-depth look into the matter. And so that's the rationale for wanting to bring it to the board for approval to send to her. I don't know if administration's already done this or not, Mr. Springston, but no?
No, sir.
Okay, and so, you know, I bring it in this fashion so that this board can take action and send it to her.
Garcia?
Well, I know that I had discussed this with a couple of people up at TEA regarding some pending matters that we had with TEA, because we had received a letter back on July the 13th, and apparently we never responded to them in regards to the whole investigation and so forth. So I am very much concerned on things that were left out of the report itself. So I think that if we're going to send something, we better make sure that we don't leave anything out of that report, because there is malfeasance, and we excluded something in that report that makes me feel very uncomfortable, information that has been suppressed from some of us, and that's what makes me feel uncomfortable, because if we're going to be sending her reports, we need to make sure that we send her everything and that we don't leave anything out, or else they won't be able to pick up on a lot of the things that I know that some of us have already been questioning, and yet we have no answers yet for. So I have a concern, because if I reviewed this report and apparently there's something that's missing that's been suppressed from me, and it turns out that later on is out there, you know, we need to be very careful, because I know that there's a couple of reports that were left out of the actual Guerra report, and it was left out by the investigator, which was also the prosecutor. So I have a concern with this, gentleman. If we're going to send, we better make sure we send everything, because I made sure that I discussed some concerns with Mr. Ron Raul and with another individual that handles nothing but finances, like Ms. Chase. And as a matter of fact, Ms. Peña was on the speaker when I was talking to them. Is that correct, Ms. Peña?
Yes, ma'am.
And I know that I myself delivered the information. I had to, just like you guys went out there back in February when we were stranded over there and the superintendent came back. I know what you're talking about. But, you know, it bothers me that if we're going to make a decision, let's make sure that all the information is sent, that we don't leave anything out.
Well, I mean, just for your information, Ms. Besses, I did make it clear in my request to administration that to forward the findings of fact by hearing examiner, Victoria Guerra, and any other information that she may need. So if she later calls Mr. Springston or anybody in administration and says, can you also forward me this? You know, I'm kind of making it a blanket thing where she can come back, and if there's something she needs, she can have. I mean, we don't want to hide anything from her. We want her opinion. You know, she asked us to give this to her, and I just want to comply with the request that she made of us back then. This whole thing is over. I mean, for the most part, we don't know. Obviously, there might still be an appeal remedy that Mr. Gonzalez can be afforded if he chooses to do so. But given the fact that action's already been taken by the board, I think that this information needs to be sent to her along with anything else that she may ask for from this district. We need to make this district and its information available to her, but I would like to start with the report. Send that to her, and then let her determine what else she needs. I mean, they know what they do in TEA, we don't, and if she feels that she needs any other records, and that this board approved tonight, allowing those informations to flow freely. And I don't even think, if I'm correct, Mr. Saldana, that TEA needs to ask for permission. If they call Mr. Springston's office and say, we need you to get this information, I don't think that they even need our consent, do they? I mean,
It depends on what they're asking for and under what auspices they would be working. They have some regulatory authority, of course, but there are other matters that they would have to request.
okay, well then I guess for the sake of time and expediency, I would move that the board.
Well, Mr. Cortez, before you make a motion.
Well, I know, not the motion, but that would be my recommendation and the motion that we forward the report and that the district make any information available to her that she may request.
Some of the information that Ms. Guerra you're talking about is in the internet, where she could download, right, to call it that way.
Right.
And also, in reference to Mrs. Garcia's letter, when was it, Ms. Garcia? July?
It was
May?
July the 13th, but to my understanding, Ms. Chase and Mr. Ron Ra, when I discussed with them, it was pertaining the actual, according to them, we should have received a report from the attorney stating certain policies, but they were shocked that there was no existing report. So that's why I am so concerned, because they were looking for a certain report.
What report are you referring to?
But see, this is what we're trying to find out. What reports is she talking about? And then secondly, in response to her request for some records, Mr. Saldana talked to her saying that because of the hearing was going on, that she could not have access to some of those records. Am I correct, Mr. Saldana?
It was, I did have some discussions with Ms. Chase.
Yes.
And she and the attorneys for TEA agreed regarding the situation.
Yes, and in fact, she said that as far as I'm concerned, it's over. There's no reports that I need. That was my understanding that you told us.
At that time, yes. Yeah.
So, I just wonder what...
Mr. Aguilar?
Ms. Peña?
I know there's been questions back and forth from TEA, from our attorneys, the entourage of attorneys that we have for the district. And I would like to see us be able to forward this information, like Mr. Cortez is suggesting, because we have nothing to hide. And we pretty much have everything in black and white, which was written. And when it says forward report, I'm wondering if we're thinking the reports that Mr. Navarro had brought to us. Do you remember that package, Mr. Springston, that had on findings and information? The stuff that we were allowed to read and look at? Not the stuff that was kept at your office because it had involved students and we can't let that out, but the other reports that were given to us, that we were all given binders. Do you remember those reports? That's what I think they're talking about.
Well, Ms. Peña, back then, that information still wasn't compiled, and when we had that conversation with her. And so, for the sake of giving the administration permission,
right,
send the hearing examiner's report along with a letter from the administration saying whatever else you need, this district will make available to you. And that way, if they ask for that information, send it. And it's already been approved by this board. And you're right, we have nothing to hide. Let them look.
And
let TEA look at it.
If I can finish, the point of what I'm stating is you give them the report and then they'll ask, well, what did you use to get these findings? Those are the other reports. How did you come to this conclusion? It's just not a magic wand. There's my conclusion. And they want to ask, well, let's see what she evaluated. Let's see what they looked at. And I agree with you. Let them see it, make the decision. It protects the district at the same time, because from what I understand, this isn't over yet. And at this time, I'd like to know where we stand with it. If somebody missed something, because this is a person who's unbiased, is sitting here looking from the outside the box, and we might have missed something. I don't have a problem with it.
Mr. President.
Doctor.
Thank you. I'm okay with the agenda item. I don't think that TA really needs our permission. I think when they need information, they being our governing body, they can acquire it. But you know, if we want to make it official with the item, I'm okay with it. Just for the sake of maybe some of us in the public that may not know, would you please, Mr. Springston, Rita Chase is whom exactly?
She's the head auditor for TEA.
Okay. And the famous Ron Rowell, who is he exactly?
I do not know, sir.
Oversees the governance department, which he has worked very closely with Rita Chase.
I'm okay with approving this item. I would like, Mr. Saldana, if possible, Mr. Cortez is your item, if we could include, you know, Rita Chase and Ron Rowell, would that be acceptable to you, Mr. Cortez, Mr. Saldana? I mean, it's your item, so obviously it's your call, but I'm okay approving this. But if you know, if the name Ron Rowell has been coming up for I don't know how long now, and perhaps it would behoove this board to just go ahead and grant Rita Chase and Ron Rowell this information, or at least make it official on this item. Would that be okay with you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with that. I don't see how this becomes a governance issue. I know that how it becomes the lead auditor for the state of Texas issue, but I mean, if the rest of the board is okay with that, I really don't have a problem with it. But
it's just that his name has popped out numerous times, more so than even Rita Chase. That's the only reason I'm bringing it up. But I'm okay approving the item as is. But I think just for the sake of completeness, we can amend it to include, you know, Rita Chase and Ron Rowell.
Mr. Aguilar, they work together very closely, and I've heard those names together. In fact, I think they share information with each other, and they ask each other for their opinions and their clarification on rules, regulations, policies. So I think we send it to Rita Chase. Everyone in TEA would have access to it because it's sitting there in that office.
Okay, I mean, I'm fine with it. I don't know that they had that working relationship, but
I think that they do, because if I'm not mistaken, when I was on, I got a call, and Ms. Plessis happened to be in Austin, and I was on speaker. He said he was going out to speak to this lady. So they all work together, kind of the way you have different AAs here with the principals and the auditors and the CFO and things like that. So if we send it to one person, it's there. They're free to share with everybody else.
well, that being the case,
Just to clarify one of the things, Rita Chase may decide not to do anything. She said, what I'm seeing here is some serious issues. If you guys don't take action, then you'll be derelict in your duties as board members. That's what she commented to us. And so she says, when it's finished, when it's over, when you've gone through the process, send me the findings, and I'll look at it and see if there's anything else I may want to do. I may want to do further investigation or not. And so
That'd be a good idea.
I think you're just following up on that, right?
Yeah.
And so
that being the case, I'd like to make a motion to forward.
Can I say just one more thing, please? You know, I would rather get a copy also for the Office Inspectors of Generals. They have a forensic auditor, and I'm really very uncomfortable with a lot of the stuff. And to tell you the truth, I think they deserve a copy also as well. That would please me to the extent that I'd be so happy, because if we're going to get to the bottom of it, I think that they deserve a copy of everything too. I would love to see that happen, and I think that if it goes to TEA, the Office of Inspectors General has the ultimate authority, and I would like to see that happen.
Well, for the time being, I'm going to make a motion to send this to Rita Chase with TEA. And so I'd move to forward the findings of fact by hearing examiner Victoria Guerra to Rita Chase with TEA, along with any other information that she may need from this district
And second.
relevant to this matter.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Springston, on this one, can you, I'll give you the Office Inspectors General, so you can send them a copy also as well, please. I'll put it in an email for you.
That's not the motion.
Well, I'll discuss this after the meeting, Mr. Springston.
Item 25, discuss and review all legal fees from all law firms paid from September 2008 through October 1, 2009. Take possible action and recommendation to this matter. Board member request.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. This is Ms. Plessis.
Okay, Ms. Garcia.
Oh, on this one for the legal fees? Yeah. On this one, gentlemen, I requested for the copy because I believe we're still using certain services, or I don't know, we're going to continue using those services. We were supposed to discuss the, I guess, the final fees for the investigator slash law firm that did the prosecution. And I just wanted to see how many of the attorneys we've been paying. And I know that as of today, we have $969,710 in legal fees. And I think we're close to reaching $1 million. I foresee that we're going to hit $1 million. Can somebody, can administration answer if we're still under contract with Navarro? Because I think the last check for Denton and Navarro was back in May 15th. And he still provided us a service in August. So are we going to continue to see his billing here after the hearing was found on September the 11th? Can somebody answer me that, please?
I believe he had one more bill that came through.
He has one more bill?
Yes, if I'm not mistaken. I think there was one more bill that came through. Mr. Saldana?
Without going into specifics of the personnel matter, the scope of Mr. Navarro's contract is through the culmination or the end of the administrative process. We'll know in a couple of days if that's coming to an end or not. I'd rather not further comment any further, and that it may become a personnel item at that point, more appropriate for discussion in closed session.
So we have one more billing that you know of?
I don't know, ma'am. I don't know. I just know that at this time, the scope of his contract remains. He remains within the scope of his contract.
What he's saying is if there's an
I understand.
appeal,
I understand, Mr.
If there's an appeal, then the
Mr.
billing will
Cortez.
continue.
I understand. My question is, the gentleman had 10 days or 15 days to appeal. Am I correct? 20 days?
Not over yet.
Okay. Well, it's not over yet. But by now, I'm sure that something is at float. Come on. Let's not kid ourselves. So, okay, fine. Then there's one more billing for Navarro as of the August and September, because May, June, July, he did work after May, didn't he? May the 15th was the last payment of $15,000. We had 2 checks cut out to Denton, Navarro, and Rochan, because I'm reviewing the expenses of this suit that we've crossed the hurdle already. So he had 2 checks cut out, which was $30,000 combined in May. Don't tell me that he didn't work in June, and that he didn't work in July, and that he didn't work in August. So somewhere we're missing invoices here. That's my question. Now, can somebody answer me? Because May, June, July, August, September, unless he worked for free for 4 months, which I doubted because I saw a lot of transactions during that period.
Mrs. Springton?
As far as I know, Ms. Presas, he did work August, through August and partially through September, and has indicated, now I don't know the status of the invoices and their payment status. My review of the bills is strictly in regards to the reasonableness and necessary aspect of the legal work that is done. And then I pass that along to the superintendent's office and finance for processing at that time. I don't know what stage that's in right now. I do know Mr. Navarro has worked up through, I believe it was the special call meeting that was conducted in September. And as indicated to you, the scope under which he was hired remains open as of right now.
Has there been any discussion with administration in regards to how we can control some of these expenses? Or is it that all these, you see, over here, we cut it, Den Navarro a check was made out to him. Whoa. No, I missed this one. He billed us back on September the 3rd, $105,000. That's on the first page. Navarro was paid $105,816. Gentlemen, this really bothers me because we're spending all this money on law firms, and we need to start tackling some of these issues. I've been seeing invoices, and I've been bringing it up to this board. I don't know what else to do, but this does not look good, and I know that taxpayers will wring our necks when they see us out there in the public. At least I know I will hear something.
Let me say this, that I'm pretty sure Mr. Navarro would bill us according to the number of hours that he worked on that case. And whoever he hired to help him, I think he was an assistant attorney. As for the other lawyers, well, every time someone brings a grievance and they bring their own lawyer, well, you know, administration has to have their own lawyer. Now, how are we going to control that when you got 2,000 individuals out there that they want to file a grievance and they bring their own lawyer with them, and are we going to just leave the administration by itself? Other things that perhaps you wonder is how many lawsuits are coming after this. And you're going to see this in the future in this specialist program, that we're going to see people suing the school district. Do we have control of that? No, we don't. Now, what we do is we just need to find the pay attorneys to defend the school district or whoever administration is. Now, how are you going to control this? You give me an answer.
Mr. President, thank you for your input, but let me tell you how it's controlled. We hire in-house attorneys, and you pay them a flat fee. So if other districts have done it, such as like Corpus Christi and San Antonio, I don't see why we keep going at it the wrong way. I've been asking for us to move along and try to make the best of it for our taxpayers' dollars, and obviously it keeps getting ignored.
Yeah. Well, I understand the bill is high, but you also need to understand that the true investigation was not something that we can fix it overnight, and that's what the total large amount of money that was spent on those law fees that you're looking at. Otherwise, it would be substantial like any other school district itself spend, considering the size of the district. And we're not the only one. There's even smaller schools that spend over $1 million. It all depends on the situation that given year.
Also, I have a question to Mr. Springston. At the same time that we have Navarro, we were also paying for Walsh Anderson services?
Yes, ma'am.
So we were paying for 2 law firms at the same time for the same case?
No, ma'am.
Well, you know, Walsh Anderson has billed us here quite a bit. So are they also billing us at the time? I'm sure they're billing us at the time that they're discussing with our attorney. Our attorney is discussing with Navarro. I'm sure that it's not for free. So it's double. That's why it's costing us. I mean, we got to look at it with open eyes. Don't tell me that Mr. Saldaña gets a call from Navarro and he's not going to, Walsh Anderson is not going to bill us. I'm sure they are billing us at the same time that they're both attorneys are on the phone. One of them for being the prosecutor and the investigator, and the other one because he's the designated attorney. Gentlemen, we just need to start reviewing these more carefully and start paying more attention of how we're getting billed. I really don't agree to all these fees, and it's ridiculous. Well, it's a shame.
Well, I tell you what, I don't think either Walsh Anderson, Mr. Navarro, any other attorney is going to bill us something for that they have not provided service to this district. Now, if Mr. Which I cannot answer what Walsh Anderson did, according to your suggestion that on the phone calls. Sometimes even Walsh Anderson needs to defend not only the board, but also other personnel in the district. And just because Navarro was investigating the Gonzalez case, Mr. Saldaña did not relinquish his right to defend other employees in BISD.
You know, funny, because on 9/26, Walsh Anderson got a check for $38,747, and then another check for $17,609.
Well, Do you want to ask him, is there? If not, what is that you wanted to do with this?
The thing is that, Mr. President, it's very clear that we're getting hit twice for the same case. And it's an injustice to taxpayers' dollars, Mr. Aguilar. It really is. If you don't look at it that way, it bothers me. It bothers me because I've been requesting for administration to start looking into the people that have applied for that position, and we need to move on these things, and we need to not put them on the back burner. If that position has been announced, this is the reason why I'm bringing it up, because we were told that they were going to start looking into it, and obviously we're back to square one. No matter how many times I decide to bring up this agenda item, it's okay. There's 7 applicants, there's 8 applicants. We still don't move on it. And, you know, it's just, I guess it's irrelevant how many times I bring it and how many times I tell you as colleagues, this is how much we spent, because obviously it doesn't seem to bother anybody, except, I don't know, I don't know who else it gets bothered with these fees. Well, Ms. Peña just said that she gets bothered with those fees.
Well, everybody's bothered, but then again, you need to look at the real reason why this money is accumulated.
Mr. Aguilar?
What is your recommendation then, ma'am? I mean, you put this on the agenda?
Well, I think we have already recommended for administration to start focusing on the hiring an internal
Mr. Aguilar?
inside
Yes.
attorney.
And her point is well taken. The objective is to hire an in-house attorney. We pay him $100,000 a year. It's gonna be the $500,000 we're paying otherwise. And I know it's hard, and we're gonna have a very, very difficult time ever finding someone to come work under us because of the position that you put in as an attorney, the fact that you're walking on eggshells and you don't know how long you're gonna be here. But at the same time, if we put $100,000, you're the attorney, and we might go through 100,000 attorneys, but we won't go past 100,000 a year. That's the objective. When we're hiring outside attorneys, you're gonna go, right here, we have $1 million in fees. 229,000 in Mr. Navarro, and we're not done yet. So having an in-house attorney would limit you to 100,000. And you're like, well, they won't last, what have you, they can't take the pressure, the political implications are just beyond their desire to stay. When you hire another one. But my point is, you won't go up past the 100,000 a year as opposed to the 500,000.
Mr. Cortez?
You know, and some of these fees, obviously, when that expiration of the date for filing an appeal, if that remedy isn't exhausted, then some of these fees just cease, they stop. You know, the one constant that we get is the Walsh-Anderson. But as you look at that, most of that came out of special services, you know, which centered around why this board even did what it did. You know, maybe now, you know, interim superintendent has taken steps to rectify some of those problems. Maybe now we'll see a decrease in some of those fees, because most of those fees from Walsh-Anderson stem out of special services. And so maybe now that we've actually, the board's taken steps, and now that interim superintendent Brett Springston has made some different moves, maybe now we'll start to see some type of reduction. I mean, nobody wants high attorney fees, but you're right. I mean, they won't bill for a service that they didn't provide to this district. And, you know, some of these fees are gonna disappear. But those constant ones are the ones that we need to work on, like Ms. Presa says. And some of those will go down, I believe, with the change.
Well, not only that, but also some of the fees that you incur in this bill that you're talking about. And you see Walsh-Anderson is also looking over contracts with architects, construction people. Is looking over a lot of personnel issues that the administrator for personnel has questions. In fact, I even saw one that perhaps the administration can in-service their administrators, because now they were calling about ARDs and procedures. I mean, that should have been taught way back in college when they were taking the administration courses, you see. And I know the district can provide you service on this. And here we have an assistant principal back and forth on telephone calls. If you read all those what do you call them, bills they sent us, it went on for 3 days. And, well, they're not going to do it for us free. Every time they call their attorney to ask him a question or to sit down with the assistant principal, I'm going to name the school, but it's obvious if you read the bill, it's there. And very precise. Walt Anderson bills you, very precise what they did. And of course, sometimes you wonder as well, with personnel. Because really that's, so if you divide, rather if you subtract what Navarro's going to take us, charge us, final bill, you're going to see that the rest is ours.
But Mr. Aguilar, if I may, from, this is from 2008 November till now. Walsh Anderson, $535,906, $500,000. My point goes back to, if we have an in-house attorney, no matter how many times, once you have a set fee, you're gonna save the district money. So, but no, I'm talking about the other point. No, well, not according to the dates. The dates up there are different, but the dates that they post the bills, Mr. Cortez, doesn't show that other date. It shows November.
It's very low.
So, if I may, my point is that let's really work diligently in trying to see if we can find someone, because if you have parents and you have issues, personnel contracts, what have you, once you have an in-house attorney and you have a set fee, he does all that for that one fee and not charges for every letter printed by the computer. So that's just my concern. Thank you.
I think the process of an in-house attorney does not replace the need for a board attorney that would have at least the ability to advise us on legal matters coming before the board. There's not education law is very specialized, and we need a law firm that will best represent the district in all types of legal matters. And it's in your experience, if you have a legal issue or you need to defend yourself legally, that you would have a need for the best counsel you can find. The fees do not cut off in situations where you have special cases that need to be investigated or defended, and it is, in past discussions of an in-house attorney, it was the intent to help that attorney address the legal issues that come before the school district administration, but it was never as a replacement for a board attorney. So, but there is Walsh Anderson, of course, is a specialist in education law in the state and works for many districts. I don't think it's a matter of just cutting off the investigative lawyer that's done the investigation and has prosecuted the case. We have to pay for services rendered, and there's really, I agree with Mr. Cortez, these fees are likely to go down with the situation being different as far as what caused the original problem in the first place.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Springston, any update on the status of our search? Are we still looking, or anything new?
I have made phone calls, and I just have not had an opportunity to set up interviews.
We have some applicants.
Yes, sir. If I'm not mistaken, there's 7 or 8. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
If not, let's go to the next item.
Item 27. Recommend approval to increase the Teach for America Memorandum of Understanding for 2009-2010 in the amount of $38,000, $19,500 previously approved. Services to be rendered subject to the district's needs and funding.
Ms. Peña.
Yes, I see this item, And it shows that we, on May 19th, we approved memorandum of understanding with Teach for America. The amount approved was $19,500. And then the district recruited additional teachers with an increase of $18,500 for a total of $38,000 for the 2009-2010. Correct me if I'm wrong. The Teach for America teachers, those are teachers that come out of from outside our area. Am I correct?
That is correct.
And we have so many teachers that are out there graduating from our local universities, Pan American University and UT Brownsville. They're out searching to, get jobs. And I'm wondering why we are increasing this from what we approved. And I understand we have to bring in different thinking, different mentalities, so we can expose our children, which is, what education is all about. But why the increase when we have so many teachers, so many graduates from our universities walking around in the area unemployed? Explain the difference, why it went up.
Ms. Fox.
Thank you, Mr. Springston, Mr. Aguilar, members of the board. On page 232, you see the actual categories or the subject matter in which the persons are teaching. Primarily, it's our critical shortage areas: science, English. That's where we have a greater need. We don't have as many certified teachers in those areas coming out of our local universities. In addition to that, we currently have some of these teachers who are successful in our campuses. The principals then begin to talk to others, and the principals seem to say that in recruiting teachers for science, oftentimes math, English, they really like the Teach for America teachers. And these teachers who are currently in the system bring a friend or get connected with the principal like that. We allow the principals to interview any teachers that have applied.
If I may,
and then the principal makes the selection. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm sorry. 5th grade bilingual, 1, 2, 5th non-lab. Was 1, 3 5th grade bilingual and 1 5th non-lab.
5th grade bilingual teachers are very difficult to find, ma'am, because the certification for bilingual is EC4 or early childhood through 4th grade.
And we have no one here in our area that has graduated from the university that has gotten that type of certification. Is that what I'm hearing?
No, I would not say that. I would not ever say that we have no one. We have a limited number of teachers who are bilingually certified in grades 5 through 8, which is the next certification. We have many teachers certified in the EC4 bilingual, but for 5th grade it requires a bilingual certificate, and those teachers get a certificate that says grades 5 through 8. There are very, very few of those coming from the university.
You said something that bothers me, and with all due respect to you, and I think very highly of you, you do an excellent job. But you did something that just kind of, my hair stands on end. You allow teachers, just me, I just describe how I feel so you know where I'm coming from. They'd bring a friend in, and they like the friend, and so I'm going back to where I've got the public coming to me, our community. We push, we preach, get your education, teach, stay local, help, educate those that are coming from, behind you. And this where they say, well, we work hard, we get educated, we get our degree, and then I have to go outside the area to get a job. So it kind of like hit a nerve when you said, well, they're teachers from Teach for America, and then they bring a friend, and then the friend is introduced to the principal. Okay, let's do this. That kind of like makes me wonder why we're going outside of our backyard when we do have some very good qualified teachers, a lot of them. We have a lot of educators born and raised in this area and have done an excellent job. I just have a concern. It's just a concern that I have that we need these, don't get me wrong, but when we have a lot of them that are out there, and I'm sure everybody hears it, all of us on the board have heard it. I can't get a job with BISD. I had to go to Houston, and I'm doing well, but I want to come home. Or, why do they have to leave our area, go do well, and then we bring them back? Why can't we just start them here? That's my only sincere concern.
Well, if I might, I would just clear up one thing. Mm-hmm. The teacher every person in the United States who is certified can apply online for a position, teaching position in BISD.
Yes.
And when they do that, we gather together a pool of people, applicants. Once the applicants are qualified as candidates for the position, that is, they're certified, the principals have access through the Winocular system in the computer to see all of them. In some cases, they're looking for a science teacher, and there may only be a very limited number. In a EC4 bilingual elementary, it could be there's 50 people there. Then the principals individually begin interviews with whatever persons they choose to select to interview, and then from there make a recommendation. So the process is across the board. There's not any favoritism or anything like that. A teacher only can introduce a friend to a principal, but the process is such that all applicants are considered based on their certification, and principals and their site-based decision-making team at the campus are the ones who make recommendations, interview and make recommendations to the principal. So I apologize if I made it sound like teachers bring their friends and they get hired. It's not, it doesn't work that way. I apologize if I didn't make that clear. It's a system that across the board anyone can apply for, and with proper certifications are qualified as candidates, and principals interview them and make their selections based on their site-based decision-making team.
Thank you for the clarification. I really appreciate that, Ms. Fox.
President,
Doctor?
I move to approve item 27 as recommended
second.
by Administrator.
It's been moved and approved, second by
Mr. Science.
Mr. Sias. Thank you, sir.
It's late.
Just
Approved
come out
by
of
Mr. Sias, wow.
He really knows, right? All is, it's been
Aye.
second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Pat?
Item 31, recommend approval to pay for Mexican American School Board Members Association membership in the amount not to exceed $1,000 from local maintenance budgeted funds.
Ms. Peña?
I move to approve the item.
Good job.
A second. Thank God.
Thank
Well,
God.
I got my,
You
I got
your
my
answer,
questions
right?
answered.
Move and second. Do I have, all in favor say aye?
Aye.
We getting tired again. Those opposed say nay.
Item 34, recommend approval to enter into a contractual agreement with Communities and Schools, Cameron County, Inc., Brownsville, Texas, for case management services for students at Southmost Elementary, Bestedo Middle School, migrant students at each of the BISD middle schools, and for all students at each of the BISD high schools for the 2009-2010 school year in the amount not to exceed $236,500 from categorical funds. Services to be rendered subject to the district needs and funding.
Ms. Garcia?
No, I circled the wrong one, sir. It wasn't.
Okay.
I move to approve item 34.
Second.
So being moved and second, those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed say nay.
13, closed meeting. As pursuant to the Texas Government Code, Section 551071, 551072, 551074, 551082, and 551084.
Vámonos para atrás.
We're back from a closed meeting. Item number 39.
Recommend approval of probationary contractual personnel for the 2009-2010 school year athletic trainer, subject to receipt of all outstanding documentation.
Do I have a motion?
I move to approve.
Moved by Dr. Escobedo. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay.
Recommend approval of probationary contractual personnel for the 2009-2010 school year choir director, subject to receipt of all outstanding documentation.
Move to approve.
Please move.
Second.
Anyone?
Second.
Second, Mr. Sayers. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
41.
31.
Recommend approval of probationary contractual personnel for the 2009-2010 school year counselor, subject to receipt of all outstanding documentation.
Do I have a second? Excuse me,
Move to
motion.
approve.
Motion to approve,
Is
a
that
second.
41, yes.
Second.
Second by Mr. Sayers. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Say nay. Okay.
42. Recommend approval of probationary contractual personnel for the 2009-2010 school year curriculum specialist, language arts, pre-K-12, subject to receipt of all outstanding documentation.
Motion.
I move to approve.
Been, moved to approve. Do I have a second? Do I have a second? All right, for lack of second, dies. Next one, please. 45.
Item 45, recommend approval of term non-chapter 21 contractual personnel for the 2009-2010 school year. Administrator for Certified Personnel Department, subject to receipt of all outstanding documentation.
Do I have a motion? Do I have a motion to approve? Dies.
Item 48, recommend approval of term chapter 21 contractual personnel, professional personnel for the 2009-2010 school year. Curriculum specialist, early childhood, subject to receipt of all outstanding documentation.
Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Motion second?
I'll second.
Second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay.
Item 49, recommend approval for compensation to classified staff, FM 3.5 hours, EV 1 hour, DH 8 hours, RR 56.5 hours, LV 8 hours, SS 65 hours, and BO 45.5 hours for work performed during June, July 2009 for a total of $3,431.93.
Motion.
I second.
Who made the motion?
Peña?
Ms. Peña, second by Mrs. Garcia. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Next one, please.
Item 51, recommend to void the 2009-2010 term contract and terminate an employee due to failure to maintain proper certification, MG.
Move to approve.
Moved by Mr. Cortez, second.
Second.
Second, Mr. Sy. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay.
Item 52, discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding board options pertaining to the selection of a superintendent. Board member request.
Dr. Escobedo.
Yeah, Mr. President, I move to open the application process for a period of 10 days for internal promotions only for the position of superintendent of schools of the Brownsville Independent School District.
Second.
Second.
Second. All in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say nay. Okay.
Counselor, that was
That's
sufficient.
perfect.
Thank you. After the fact.
I'm glad he approved it.
I'll give you a 5-star rating.
That was perfect.
Don't worry. Even though I don't know many things are, right?
Or
That's
actually,
cute.
item,
Item 53, there was no discussion.
Item 26 next.
54.
54 with 26.
54A.
A, special services invoices found paid without sufficient documentation to account for services rendered from various vendors.
I move that we direct Margie Flores, our internal auditor, to continue on with her investigation and look further
Wait,
into.
Mr. President,
26.
is this an action item?
It's 54A.
Action item.
No, it's not.
26 is the action item.
Which one?
26.
Oh, I'm sorry,
You're doing
46 is the action item.
26.
26 is the action
26 is the action item.
No action on.
Okay, we'll bring 26 back then.
Okay.
it can be either way, Mr. Sias, Mr. President.
Okay.
Either
It's the same
other
thing,
under item 26, under item number 26, or the action item after closed session, which is
54A.
54AB.
Okay. The one on the bottom here.
So
Right.
if you want to just take 26, that way we'll clean the slate on that and we'll take it up.
Okay.
All right. 26 then.
I move that we direct our internal auditor to continue her investigation, look further into these matters.
A second.
Second.
Second, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
let the record reflect I'm abstaining from this item, and I'm abstaining because, it's my understanding that the auditor does not need board approval, therefore I'm abstaining.
Okay, fine. There's still discussion on 55, correct?
How about 54B?
Well,
I thought we did them
54B,
together.
Oh, we did it both together?
Both together.
Did we
Okay,
not? Yes.
okay.
All right. So 53, there's nothing there.
Put it in the
55,
minutes, as long as it's
there's
reflected.
no discussion on 55.
Okay.
Announcements.
Announcement number 56.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Night already, man.
It's already Wednesday. All right. Next scheduled board meeting of trustees will be October the 20th, 2009, here at the Administration Building at 5:30 p.m.
Sir, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
In second, by Ms. Peña. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay.
Good night, everybody.
Hey, have fun today. You'll be on your way, you'll be on.
Patty, today